Hey folks, before we get started with the episode proper, I did want to cut in to talk briefly about something that's been going on in the real world that's been on a lot of our minds here at the podcast, because as many of you may know, Third Impact Anime, most of us are based here in North Carolina, and as you may have heard through the news recently, certain parts of Western North Carolina and broader Central and Southern Appalachia, people pronounce it differently, were pretty devastated by the recent Hurricane Helene in ways that I don't think people in those communities were really prepared for, because who would have thought that a hurricane would, devastate a mountainous region in quite that way? And because of the ongoing effects of climate change making hurricanes more and more severe year after year, well, the severity of the devastation just sort of follows suit with that. So that being said, a lot of people are really struggling right now, and they need a lot of help. So thankfully, all of us here, we're safe. Most of us live in either central or eastern North Carolina, so none of us were directly affected, but we have a lot of friends, family, coworkers, extended family, acquaintances, etc., who were affected, and thousands of others who really need some support during this very difficult time. So we set up a pretty simple landing page on our website to link some places where people can donate if you feel so inclined to do so, and I really hope that you will. So please go to thirdimpactanime.com/Helene Relief and take a look at some of the resources that we've put together. And please, if you're able, just throw a couple dollars towards one of these organizations, whichever one speaks to you the most. And now, enjoy the episode. Hey folks, and welcome back to another episode of the Third Impact Anime Podcast. My name is Austin, and if I had an anime-themed Itasha car, I think I would wrap it in Zombieland Saga theme for a number of reasons. One, because that show rules. Two, because I think the paint splatter motif of the logo would look really cool on an Itasha car, and I've already thought this out meticulously. So Sakura has to be on the hood because she gets hit by the car in the first episode. Okay, listen, I'm gonna keep going. So Yugiri has to be on the driver's side because she's like the oldest, right? So obviously she would be the driver. Let's see, I think Lily needs to bring up the rear, and let's see, I wanted to, I thought about this. The rear is going to be the two whose names I always forget, but on the other door it's going to be Saki and Lily on the passenger seat, and then Tai is going to be on top, and then a nice little Easter egg will be that shut up turf sticker, small on the back window. It's just because it has to be there, of course.
So true.
I've thought about this meticulously. Who is joining me as my co-host this evening?
Hi, Tori here. If I had an anime-themed Itasha, I probably would wrap it in specifically Asuka from Evangelion, because that has been my dream since I was at least 15.
Do you have any particular specific Asuka you would want to use, or is it like a menagerie? The greatest
just a menagerie, just a full-on, ridiculously lavish tribute to Asuka.
So kind of like the one that was at Otakon, but not with the rest of the girls.
Correct.
Very good. And we heard some additional voices on here. So we actually have brought on two wonderful special guests to join us for this Con-versations episode about Otakon 2024. We have Coop and Maddy. How's it going, guys?
Hello.
Hello. I'm doing fantastic. Thank you.
We're surviving the Houston heat right now. It is hot as balls.
Got up to 101 degrees today.
Yikes.
Oof.
But
We're actually recording this while Hurricane Debbie is hitting the East Coast.
Swag.
So, rough weather all around.
just the best. Even I'm from Michigan, so even recently it's been like soup up there, and you'd think, oh, is it snowing already? Okay, because I'm around Texans and North Carolinians. I'm going with, well, hello, my name's Coop. I ride a strike on Twitter. I love Blue Moon, non-alcoholic, and Twizzlers.
Barbecue.
Barbecue. I like propane and propane accessories.
Wrong
Perfect.
part of Texas.
Excellent
Coop.
impression. Yeah, see, I, as a foolish Southerner, just assume it's always snowing in Michigan.
You know, that's not a bad
Like,
assumption.
year-round?
It's not a bad assumption.
Yeah.
Especially
Kind of
in
sounds
EP.
like a dream world to me because, we haven't really gotten a proper snow down here in a really long time, which is kind of a shame. But anywho, so this is your first time here on the podcast. And again, thank you for coming on. Where might some of our listeners have heard you guys before? So tell us a little bit about yourselves.
I have absolutely been on Giant Robot FM many, many times, and you might have also heard me on some Chatty AF episodes in regards to G-Witch on Anime Feminists podcasts as well.
I detect a robotic pattern here.
Yeah, I like big robots. That's kind of why I also go to Otakon, because there's more for me there in terms of my interests. And to quickly answer the cold open, since this is the end of my introduction, if I had an anime-themed Natasha, I would certainly have it wrapped in a giant robo the day the earth stood still wrap.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Ooh.
Probably, like, just a menagerie again. There's not really much, like, merch for the original anime out there, but there's a lot of merch for the books and the original tokusatsu TV show. So those action figures are cool, even though I do like the anime giant robo's huge shoulders and huge big feet. He's chunky, but hey, the original tokusatsu design is pretty cool. So I would probably put that on my dash. And
I
Coop?
feel like that giant face would really translate well to a wrap.
So swag.
Oh, yeah, like right
put that on the hood.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Houston's got a lot of, it's got at least a few dozen Itasha car clubs. Like, you will see, like, their license plate, like, frames on the road, and there's all these different clubs, different, like, chapters of national clubs. Almost all of them engage in illegal racing, regardless of what they'll tell you. But you didn't hear that from me. So
An open secret.
now there was a racer that lived in my apartment complex with a K-On car, and you knew he
Heck yeah.
raced,
Oh my
even
God.
though I never heard him or saw him do anything. He would just definitely be gone through the night. He had a big muffler, like that
Oh,
thing was meant
boy.
to be loud, and he had a specific racing club on the back of his car.
When he says after school tea time, that doesn't mean what you think it means.
No.
Now, it's racing through residential neighborhoods at 50 miles an hour,
Wow.
most certainly.
Well, hi, everybody. I'm Coop. Yeah, you might have... I know y'all have talked about me on this podcast back when Austin and Sarah talked about the Macross Frontier movies. Thanks again for the shout-out. I really appreciated that.
It maybe slipped out.
Perhaps. But no, I do a bunch of writing these days, intermittently for Anime News Network. So I just did a big meaty thing on the publication history of Slam Dunk for them. Shout outs to Sully for some help with that.
Excellent article.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And on the podcasting side of things, you may have heard me on Giant Robot FM, but my occasional, I would just like to say main brother, but me and my fellow co-host Dylan are super busy all the time with stuff. But for the past 5 years, we have been remembering Macross on. Dude, do you remember Macross? Where we've gone through the entire series. We're like, you know, when you get to a part of a marathon and you're like in the last five steps, but it feels like it's taking 5 years to get there. We're kind of like that, but with the end of Macross Delta, which we hope to finish up this year. But we'll be getting there when we get there. So, yeah, that's pretty much what I do. The only other thing I could think of off the top of my head, because we will be talking about it later. Hey, I also do some copywriting for Discotek Media and AnimEigo. So just when we talk about that, just for all y'all to know, my opinions are my own and they do not reflect my employer, just so you guys know. So there we go.
They made him say that at gunpoint.
Yeah. Justin Savakis just walked into the door, cocked a Glock, and put it to the side of my head.
Hey, Justin, how's it going?
He's baking.
He's taking the time while his cake's in the oven.
So true.
Yeah.
So true.
Now let's hear your Atasha. What would it be?
Oh, so here's the thing. I could say Macross, but my brain is because it would look good, and people wouldn't necessarily know what it is. Like a wrap in the Shohoku red with but basically it looks like a Shohoku jersey. So it has like I'd probably pick number 5 for Koguri, my favorite player, the true heart of the team, and just kind of make it styled after a jersey. And when people see it on the street, it's more of a cool you know thing, because that's how I feel about a lot of anime merchandise. Like, I like having the cool flashy things too, but when I'm out in public, I like having that moment where somebody was like, "Oh, I know what you are." It'd be very subtle.
It's like Tori with your Kuroko's basketball shirt a few years ago.
Yes,
Oh,
you
for
are
sure.
a Kuro
Yes.
Basuke Fujo, I hope.
I won't out myself, but perhaps.
Maybe.
So Tori, there's this anime and manga series by this guy named Takahiko Inoue called Slam Dunk.
Cool.
And will you accept it into your heart? I've been doing that with all my friends.
Actually, seeing you talk about it and post about it so much has really piqued my interest,
Coop
and
bought me
it
the
is on
first
the list to
volume.
check out for sure.
Coop bought me the first
Yeah,
volume
but-
today.
Nice.
Oh my gosh, I can't say that I haven't done that with other things, so I commend that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I really hate that we missed. I don't even think it came around here. We missed the Slam Dunk movie.
The movie.
It came out like a year ago.
Same.
But now I keep seeing it at the used bookstore, so I'm gonna have to pick that up.
I will do it. Do it.
Yes,
Do it.
I will, and I would have done it last time if this annoying fan thing didn't get in my way, which was it didn't have the slipcover, and I'm like, I want the slipcover
I see what you're saying.
so that it will match my other G Kids Blu-rays. Is that too much to ask for?
More.
That's pretty reasonable.
Yeah, Coop, I'm glad you said you were going to do sort of like a basketball themed Tasha, because actually my brother has a basketball orange Subaru that you could, that maybe you could borrow it and like put like the little stripes around it, and it could be like the basketball to match your car.
There you go. Now that
Parking
would be
right
a
next to each
combination.
other.
I'm just now imagining a fleet of 5 red Shohoku cars, and like kind of like in a V formation, and in the middle is a basketball wrapped car.
Isn't that just Rocket League? Isn't that
You know
that
what?
is?
That's pretty much.
True,
That's pretty
true,
much it.
true.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you guys once again for coming on the show. And the reason we did so is because all 4 of us this past weekend were at Otakon 2024, and I sort of wanted to have, another one of our conversations episodes where we just sit around the virtual table and chat about our experiences. This, for me, was my very first Otakon, never been before. I had often heard about Otakon for many, many years, just following the anime space, but never made it up there until this year. And I gotta say, overall, excellent experience. We'll get into why shortly. Tori, you do have a history with Otakon, but you haven't been back in a while.
Yeah, this was my first one back in 10 years. It was
Wow.
really weird. I just kind of stopped going. I had a lot of friends up in that area, and just, as the years went on, we kind of lost touch, and that really was my only reason for visiting. But it still was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed my time.
I think my theory is that since you had that migraine and had to miss Yoko Kanno, you were just too ashamed to return.
Too embarrassed to return. Yeah, for sure. That haunts me to this day.
So, Coop and Maddy, what is your sort of history with Otakon? And I think more broadly, what's your history with anime conventions, in total?
So this is my third Otakon because as I'm from Texas, for the longest time had, past tense, great anime conventions that would get Japanese guests of all kinds, and if they were going to go to AX or Otakon or wherever, they would come to one Texas Con during their quick little summer tour. I'd do that one and then go home, and I used to go to like 6 cons a year because everything's like either at most like a 3-hour drive or right in my backyard. And then as conventions started just getting worse because of the pandemic, or because I live in Houston, and Houston's biggest show is literally ran by a sexual predator.
Oh, yeah, you guys have that one.
And it's happening starting tomorrow. I want to go gawk. No. I'm excited. I love just people watching because the weirdest of weird people derogatory show up. So...
Ooh.
Oh,
yeah,
no.
And as time went on, I was like, dang, I really want to go back to cons, but where do I start? And my friend Megan basically knocked in my DMs in 2022 and said, hey, do you want to come with me to Otakon? I got a spare room space. Just pay me blah, 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 and you got a bed. Cool. And that's exactly how it started. The only person I knew there was Megan because I was used to either going to Texas cons or cons in California because I have been going to anime conventions since, 2009? Like, it's been a long time. My very first show was Anime Expo. So, I stopped going to Anime Expo because it got so crowded after 2013, and now it's like 3 times more crowded, which is insane. And Otakon back then, and somehow even now, is still not as crowded as Anime Expo was over a decade ago. So, for now, it's just like, okay, right now, it's at the size it needs to be. I really enjoy Otakon. Otakon has more to offer me in terms of me liking classic and generally retro anime. The median age of your average Otakon attendee is much older than any other anime convention on average, so I don't feel so out of place, being nearly 30. So, hey, it just ended up being my home con now, even though it's far from home, and all of my friends go. Friends that I met there and friends that I knew online vaguely. And we all kind of met in person. I'm still meeting, like, new online friends that go all the time because they all just came back for the first time in 5 years this year. So, yeah, Otakon is now my favorite show and pretty much the only show I go to now.
Well, I mean, you put a good point on that. It's like a home con really is, where your people are. And that's that's kind of animazement for us, certainly.
For sure.
But,
you might see me there next year.
Hey, come on down.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking,
we'll
too,
get you some
honestly.
cheerwine.
Oh, yeah.
I need to see Nagahama in a line that isn't terrible, but we will get to that later.
Oh, boy. Okay, so I hesitate to say this on the podcast because that means people might listen and then they might show up. But last time Tori and I saw Nagahama, this was not this year, but last year at Animazement, we were like maybe one of maybe 6 people in line. And the person in front of us was Kurt.
He goes every year, though, from what I understand, right? Pretty much?
Not every year, but basically every year. Yeah, he's a general staple. Like Animazement for some locals around North Carolina, they often like to complain that Animazement does a lot of repeat guests, which is definitely true. I don't think it's quite as much of an issue as some of the local people seem to think that it is. Because I'm always thinking, well, the quality of the guest is always very high, and for some people, the Animazement that they attend is going to be their first Animazement, so to them it doesn't really matter if there's going to be some repeat guests because they've never been before. It's always new for someone. It's always a treat for someone. You don't always get to see and interact with and meet the guests that are there, so you just kind of get another chance. But anyway, not here to talk about Animazement because I've done it before. Just recently. But anyway, Coop, what's your history with Otakon and your history with conventions broadly?
Yeah, before we go on, I was curious when you said, Tori, when you said you were last at Otakon a decade ago, was that why they were still in Baltimore?
It was when they were still in the Baltimore space. Yeah, I think it was either the last one or the one before the last one in that space. I can't quite remember what year they moved over to DC.
Gotcha.
I think it was 2017, 16, 17.
Might have been 18,
Okay.
but I'm not sure.
Yeah, one of those years.
Okay. Ooh, I have no concept of time. But yeah,
It's fine.
they were still in their Baltimore
Time is hard to
space.
keep track of.
Yes.
Time is a lie. But yeah, as Maddie was saying, like meeting a bunch of big friends. So I met Maddie actually at Otakon 2022. A lot of people at Otakon 2022 actually, because I went because I was thinking of going, and I was like, had met people, and I've been wanting to go to Otakon for a long time. So let's roll it back to there. So I've been going to conventions since 2008. Youmacon 2008 was my very first con in Dearborn.
All four of us sort of started around that same time. Maddie, you said 09. Coop, you said 08. Tori and I, our first convention was 2010.
Yep.
Gotcha. So all pretty close around there.
Yeah.
The very end of the Yowie paddle era.
Yeah,
Oh,
Honestly,
yeah.
yes.
pretty much.
Like
yeah,
just on the out.
just on the way out. But yeah, I went to excuse me, I went to
Youmacon?
Yep, Youmacon 2008. But a couple years before, I did actually was begging my parents to go to, and I was in middle school at the time because I was a freshman in high school when I went to Youmacon. But like when I was like in 6th grade, I was so into Jam Project.
Yes.
And I heard they
Oh
were
my
going to be at Otakon. I wanted to go so bad, but my parents were like, "What? What are you talking about?" But I remember having the poster. Like they posted like I printed it out on like really glossy photo paper, and
At Kinko's.
no, it was at home because they had a
Wow.
photo printer, and I put it on the wall, and it was there for like all through high school.
Amazing.
So
But-
how did you get into Jam Project? What was your entry?
Uh,
Was it
I-
Dragon Ball or?
Dude, I think I've been into giant robots for so long.
Okay.
And being un bebe on the internet at the time, I'd occasionally just hear Jam Project. Like, I think I would have to say, if I'm trying to think of a direct connection,
Be one
when
of
I
those
w-
like
like-
2000s Gundams, maybe.
I think what it is around 2006. I 6th grade still, mind you. I got into the tokusatsu community a little bit at the time.
Wow.
And I became familiar with Mike Dent's work. He used to do a podcast
Oh,
called
okay, yeah.
R5 Central, and he's a big Jam Project fan. He's talked about a bunch of this. I remember listening to his show in middle school. Yeah, Momo. Yeah, he likes Mike
He
too.
is
There
fed
it
and
is.
watered. He is just a whore.
But yeah, it was Mike who I found a lot of this stuff through, and it was really cool because I'm going to tell you, life over time has gotten interesting, especially with Mike, because I knew guys in college who were new mutual friends of Mike, and now Mike and I have worked on the same Discotek projects before, like Kamen Rider Black RX to name one. And some of the Metal Hero stuff they've done recently. So that's a really cool thing. Now I'm thinking back to it. So that's kind of where with a lot of these things, now that I think back to it, if I say blame Mike Dent, it's not entirely wrong.
Golly.
But yeah, I did cons after 2008 for a while there. Did Youmacon on and off. The first couple of years at the Renaissance Center were a disaster. Oh my god, because that place is not meant for people to run around in like that. It's meant to display cars and have like some businesses people go into. But I took a long break during college and then started to go to Youmacon again right before the pandemic. And near the end of things, I was starting to feel like it was just a thing I went to meet up with some really good college friends. But it had less of a pull for me because it just like I became less interested in the partying aspect, and it's very much a party con.
Oof.
Understood.
And then flash forward to post-pandemic. I've been doing Do You Remember? Done a couple different articles. Did the Frontier article talking about the subs went up. And before that, I'd been thinking about doing this panel with my friend Russell Latshaw, talking about the entire Macross series because it had just been announced. An Anime Expo announcement just happened, saying like, "Hey, we're gonna get all these sets and all that in 22." So we did a panel. It went super successful. It was cool to kind of have a panel in the same year as Big West was officially having their first panel ever.
Yeah, what great synergy.
Yeah, so it went out well. It was funny. Somebody I know who's involved with that, and I see them on occasion at cons, and they're like, "Hey, you doing the Macross panel again this year?" And I'm like, "I might have to," because last time we did it was we did it again last year during Anime Lockdown, and that's always a great show.
Yes.
I hope JP will maybe do that again in the future if he can swing it. That's a really cool micro internet show. But yeah, that's pretty much my history with Otakon and conventioning. I will say for Otakon specifically, I would say my experience has been a little different from y'all because first year I was a panelist. These last 2 years I've been press. And either next year I'll either be press or be running around with an industry badge. So
Meanwhile, I've just been normal guy.
mm-hmm.
Hey, normal guy club.
Hey, yo.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of an interesting contrast for us because, you know, we typically, the conventions that we go to, whether they be Animazement, Anime Week in Atlanta, something smaller, almost always doing that panel grind.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we go to conventions for. I feel like that's what I've been doing at conventions since like I started paneling in like 2015, I want to say. So like going on a decade. So it was definitely kind of strange going to Otakon and being like, why is my backpack so light? Where's my laptop?
I get that.
Yeah, I think I said to you on the trip up, I was just like, oh my gosh, like I keep feeling like I'm forgetting something, but it was because I didn't bring my computer because I didn't need it.
Oh no, I forgot to finish my panel. Oh wait, I don't have one.
But honestly, I think that if I had tried to put paneling on top of everything else that was going on that weekend, I would have simply gone insane.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Same
instead
here.
y'all were Austin and Tori naked and afraid.
Yes.
Honestly, a little bit.
A little bit.
That's not too far from the truth because as soon as we got there, because neither of us had been to the Walter E. Washington Convention Center before, we were with one of Tori's friends who had been to Otakon before in this venue, but it was just very, it was a lot. The venue is
For sure.
quite large and
jumpy.
not always obvious where exactly you're supposed to go.
So my first year, I had a lot of that. I know Maddie can speak to that as well, but like it got really confusing because in the convention center, like you have to, there's a street that runs through it, so you have to go up, cross the street from a skywalk hall thingamadoo that's still part of the building, and then go back down to get to the panel rooms. And at first, that's like one of the most
But not all the way down.
Yeah,
That's the trick.
Yes.
Yeah. It's just it is a confusing layout, but as for somebody who hasn't been there before, but now that I've been there a couple of years, it's gotten easier to figure out the ways to get around easier, the ways that, hey, if I keep going down the dealers, if I go up on a certain part of the dealer's hall tunnel, that I don't have to worry about the big skywalk, which will take longer than just walking through that.
I felt like I was participating in some sort of bizarre optical illusion because every time I would think I was going to the skywalk, I would be like, oh, I've already passed through it. Because I didn't realize that what I was walking through was the skywalk.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Because, like, you see it from the outside street level and you think it's going to be something, it's going to feel different on the inside, but it really just feels like a normal hallway. Very strange sensation.
And it gets, because we were staying at the Marriott, it gets a little confusing more when you add the Marriott into it.
The only reason I was so primed for this is because I did Anime Expo for so long. That's the only reason. Because Anime Expo has, at the time I was going, 50% more people at the final year I was there. And a convention center half the size, but just as disorienting because everything is in a circle. And I also went during the year the X Games were happening literally across the street. So I remember that disorientation, the Anime X Games. That's the only reason I was so born ready for Otakon, being like, nothing can touch me after the Anime X Games. And the last year I went is when Attack on Titan went live, and that's when anime like really seemed to be, in comparison to before, really hitting the mainstream. And I was like, there are simply too many people at this show. No.
Oh yeah,
and I left, and then I was done.
That year that Attack on Titan came out was certainly a turning point, I think, for a lot of conventions because attendance seemed to shoot up like 20% for like every single con, which is pretty wild.
Yeah, Anime Expo went from 50K to 60K in 1 year.
Woof.
And remember, the convention center is smaller than Walter E. White.
Is it really?
Walter E. White. Walter E. White.
Walter White Convention Center.
The Heisenberg Convention Center.
Oh my god.
That's what it must be called now. I declare.
Austin, does that mean this is the con that knocks?
It must be. Throw your
crying.
convention pizza on top of the roof.
Well, there is a Sbarro across the street, so we can make that happen.
You know, if you get onto a hotel with the rooftop pool, which is not that far, I think the AC is technically right there. You could, you know, if you can frisbee good, is doable.
You're giving me ideas for next year.
And if it misses the roof and then it lands on the ground with a satisfying plap sound.
There you go.
It'll still be funny no matter what.
True.
What were we talking about?
We were talking about the layout and getting
The
around.
layout
Yeah.
of the convention center.
Anyway, let's see.
I really was surprised by the center overall, because there were just places that I didn't even end up during the entire weekend. Like, we were walking out on Sunday and you were like, oh yeah, like we did this panel in main events upstairs, and I was like, where? I didn't even know that existed.
The
and then you
secret
took me up
third
there.
floor.
Yes, and I was like, wow, if I had known that this was up here, I probably would have actually explored up here. And then my friend and I ventured into the Marriott lobby, and it basically was nothing but like photo shoots going on in the upper part of it. And I was just really genuinely taken aback by like how many like nooks and crannies there were everywhere.
Every time you turn a corner, there's just a whole other convention center right there.
Pretty much.
Basically.
Yeah.
And in the hallways with the hotel rooms, because there's the atrium that it faces, if you're in the hotel rooms facing the atrium, you can literally just watch the cosplay photo shoots from above.
Oh, wow.
And see people that you probably will only see there and not throughout the rest of the show. And also there's like these little nooks and crannies within the hallways that are like open to the rest of the atrium with like couches and stuff, and then sometimes after like a Friday night or a Saturday night, suddenly the couch will be like moved or turned upside down because people were having times at the hotel. I stayed at the Marriott this year. That's the reason. So
I definitely quit to Tori that I feel like I would get my bearings for the convention center around Sunday afternoon, and that was certainly the case when it became the least useful to me. But, you know, I'll take that knowledge till next year.
For sure, because I felt that applying to every next year for myself. Like, fun fact, I've been going for 3 years. This is the first year I've actually had time to walk through the Artist Alley.
Wow.
Yeah, and then you're talking, we'll get to it in a minute, but you're talking about the secret third floor of panels, like trying to figure out where to go for the Flow concert. And I was just like, wow. They have that? Oh, okay. So... yeah, it's with that convention center, I think it definitely helps. Like even like with the people and stuff, I have to always give props to the convention center staff and the Otakon staff because they run a tight ship and making sure people are moving and not in high traffic areas. Like I know they also do a good job with that with cosplay or trying to. I know sometimes when people are moving around, somebody says stop for a cosplay photo, which we did, mind you. We foibled. Everybody does.
It's hard to avoid.
I do like there was a staffer that said, "Hey, you need to move because there's like." I enjoy that because a lot of the times, and I was talking this with another friend who was at the show, that some people aren't aware of their surroundings at conventions.
Nope.
And
no.
it's good to have a staff who's on top of that, and then if you're on top of that, it just makes things even more smoother.
I'm just once again so used to the Anime Expo traffic jams. Like, this Babby's first con being Anime Expo. I had to learn hard and fast, and so I just keep applying that constantly. And I'm just, for me, it's like Otakon, I actually have some wiggle room in comparison, literally and figuratively, especially the literally.
I do have a question on
Room to
that.
wiggle.
Speaking of ties to Anime Expo, something they actually had in common this year. I heard that the fire marshal put a cap when they initially opened the dealer's room. Were you guys trying to get in there, or you were like, no, man, I don't want to get trampled?
No.
So we weren't in the line. I think we heard it secondhand from somebody. I'm trying to remember where I saw that they had put the cap. But we went back later that, like, kind of early evening, and we just walked right in and had no trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it wasn't even really that much longer after we heard that they had done the cap. Like, maybe 45 minutes, an hour?
From what I heard, a lot of people got frustrated with the crowd and left and came back later.
No, that's fair. I mean, I think it's like, I mean, if you've been to a convention before, you should know, like, the dealer's room, it's going to be there. They have fairly long hours. You don't have to be the first one in. I don't really think there's anything in, like, Otakon is not one of those types of conventions. Maybe they have before in the past, but at least not this year, to have, like, super duper mega ultra exclusive merchandise or whatever. That seems to be more of like a West Coast convention thing. I don't really see a lot of East Coast cons doing that, so I don't really get the mad dash.
So pardon the interruption, but there kind of has been like last year there was a Macross exhibition with shirts and pins and merchandise that you could only buy there.
Okay.
I have so many.
Yeah, so there sometimes Otakon does have that, but it's not as often. So
it seems like something that's like a special thing, not like a given.
Yeah, it's not a given, but when
it's for like an anniversary, like Macross last year, or things like that, or whenever something they're really trying to promote is being announced, like how Bandai was there, but they were pretty much only promoting Blue Lock, which I found to be pretty interesting. I was like, y'all got so many properties to promote. Like, as much as I could say Gundam to make it easy for me, but like, Dragon Ball? Like, you're in the United States. No selling Dragon Ball stuff? Just Blue Lock? Okay.
And like, go ahead, Tori.
Oh, I was going to say, back when I attended several years ago, they used to have a lot more industry booths, and they would have, like, limited edition stuff. I really noticed that missing this year. And it seems to be, from what I've heard from other people, they've kind of weaned off that, unfortunately.
Now you mention that, I noticed that too, because I remember in 2022, Sentai had a big booth. Because Nana was just about to come out. And they were giving off commemorative coins, and I remember the plush carpeting they had on their booth. I think Crunchy was there too, but now now when I see like industry booths there, it's kind of more of the mom and pop, like say a Discotek or a Media Blasters or AnimEigo. So
and even the big industry presence, if you want to call it that, with Bandai being there, it's like their table was fairly small.
Yeah.
There was nothing on there.
Yeah,
there was just like a couple cardboard cutouts, and that was it, really.
For Blue Lock. And like I remember last year specifically, they were Crunchyroll was there promoting the hell out of Zom 100, I think is what it was called.
Okay.
And the lanyards, if you chose to not use your own, were Zom 100 lanyards. on the little digital screens, like giving directions. On one, they would leave like a little square of that screen to literally just show the anime in like several scenes in loops over and over. And the OP music was just playing constantly until you got sick of it. Like, I kind of genuinely liked, not just kind of, I extremely liked not being constantly advertised to that one darn show over and over.
Yeah.
But the industry lack of presence from the larger conglomerates was certainly very noticeable. And it definitely felt a little empty, but at the same time I kind of look on, I'm like, you know what, that's not terrible, but I also think, you know, it could be, you know, a sign of how the industry is doing as a whole with the bubble, you know?
Yeah.
Who knows?
I do think, I do think, and I'm just saying this as a fan, not as somebody who works with them, but I think the strength of, say, a Discotek or AnimEigo at the show is you can see Justin right there. You can see Mike Toole. You can see Logan, who does the subtitles. You can go and talk to them, and even if it's not a super long conversation, it may take a moment to tell you about a certain aspect of the process of making the show. And really, I like the one-to-one personal connection, because I think at the end of the day that is, I've come to realize that even though we have these big companies like we talk about, anime is a small industry and everybody knows everybody to some degree. And I think fans are more endeared to these folks when they let down the guard a little bit at an event like this and be, hey, I'm a guy or gal or fella or dude,
critter,
just like anybody else, you know. And I think
guy.
I think people really enjoy that, and I can say that for myself personally.
Oh yeah, totally. Could not agree more with that sentiment, and I'm glad that sort of, you know, we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves because I certainly want to talk about the AnimEigo and Discotek panels a little bit later, but Justin made a very explicit point about wanting to do that when we kind of exist in an environment right now where that's sort of lacking.
Crunchyroll used to be like that.
Right,
It
exactly.
certainly used to be.
Exactly. So we talked about how I don't think any of us did any panels this year.
No.
So what fan panels did we get to go see that we thought were really cool? I guess technically speaking, I was part of a panel because I once again, just like at Animazement, helped contribute a few items to our friend Kurt, the Great SG, his anime home video museum, which he did for just the second time, and I proudly let him borrow my PSP and my UMD copy of Advent Children because
Hell yeah.
Incredible, that was yours. Oh my god.
yeah, dude. So like, if you're going to have a PSP UMD movie, it almost has to be Advent Children. But I also let him borrow my Volume 4 of Samurai Champloo. Here at home right now, I have some more anime UMDs that are like a little bit more on the rare side that I didn't really want to bring. Like I have a sealed copy of it's not anime, but I have a sealed UMD of Godzilla Final Wars.
Ooh.
I have Perfect Blue on UMD.
Oh.
And I have Paprika. And
Very nice.
of course, Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Hell yeah.
I'm going to make a recommendation to you. If you want to find more UMDs for cheap, and especially like Japanese ones, you should hit up Suragaya while they're having one of their free shipping weekends, because they have actually a little decent selection of UMDs of movies of different anime. Like they occasionally have Gunbuster, a bunch of Gundam, and of course your favorite, Final Fantasy VII Advent Children.
Let's go.
Well, two things. You need to go back in time and not tell me that to save me the money.
Good luck.
They're not much. They're like a couple bucks a piece, so just so you know.
But I will say a sticky point about UMD on PSP that really gets my goat is that the console itself is region free, but not for UMD movies. They're all still region locked, which really kind of sucks. But as we all know,
just tell them to not.
I will do that.
Well,
I'll
you
call
could
up Mr.
hack your
Sony.
PSP. There's an option.
Oh, true. There's always a way. But, as we know, second only to Laserdisc, UMD is the superior video format.
This is true.
Good for you.
No, speaking of Laserdisc, so I was busy off covering something for Anime News Network during the panel, so I was a little bummed. I was able to throw in for the last 15 minutes and watch as people were going through, and just getting the bird's eye gaze of it in person. It's so cool. There was a couple things. Because we never got anything like solidly down. Like we just in passing, I just said to Kurt, "Hey, I'll bring some things next time," because I'm going from Michigan to DC to Houston back to Michigan. It's like luggage space is a premium. But
You're
next
making
time,
one weird triangle.
I know. But next time, I really would like to, because he didn't have any. If I'm correct, didn't have any Laserdisc singles, and how that Laserdisc single is like the 45 to a Laserdisc's normal size vinyl. Is the best way to describe it. I did not know that
existed.
Yeah, and then I have one that's like a making of Pat Labor, and I have a couple other special things like if you look on your AnimEigo Blu-ray. There is a Japanese VHS of Project AnimEigo featured with scans and pictures of the tape itself. That's my tape.
Hey, nice.
So so I would be down to bring that as well. I have a couple little cool things. I don't know if Kurt would want me to bring a VHS tape of Roadhouse, even though it's the best anime film of all time. But there's a couple things I would like to bring eventually that I know Kurt also has. But no, I never got back to him on anything more solid because trips and stuff. But
sure,
I would also like. I appreciate the shout out Kurt gave to me in the presentation because I know he took a couple of my photos of how I have my laser discs on the wall, and that's dope.
And
everyone oohed and awed in that panel. Coop was not there, but we all remember.
Yes. Dude, you remember even.
See
what I did there? Mm-hmm. So I know, Tori, you came to that panel. You're not as much of a, I guess, home media sicko as we are. So from your perspective, how did you think about it?
I thought it was really interesting. I think the way Kurt has his information laid out is really engaging. I walked away learning something, which is, what I always hope to do whenever I go to a fan panel. And unfortunately, the line got a little bit too long, and I was kind of tired, so I didn't get up to actually look at everything closely. But I was very surprised by kind of the range of everything that was up there. And I looked at my friend and I was like, oh, I have those same Evangelion tapes. Yay. But I thought it was really cool. And it's obviously something that he cares about a lot and is very passionate about. And I think that reflects very well in the material that he has.
Totally. Maddie, did you have any reflections on that panel?
It made me feel old because I used to have that GBA video player and I collapsed. In my mind, when they mentioned how old it was, I was like, no, stop. Turn it to dust.
Were you one of those people that raised their hand when Kurt said, did anybody have a video now?
Yes. Yes.
I resented that because I wanted one of those so bad and my family would never get me one.
I had an uncle get it for me, and I used to have one of those. This wasn't mentioned, but they brought up mini DVDs. Remember those mini DVD players? Oh, yeah. But that would also play regular DVDs. That would have, it was like a laptop, but literally the only space was just enough for play, pause, next menu or whatever, and like where to put the DVD. I explicitly remember watching the old Clone Wars cartoon on one of those.
Wow.
And so I felt the passage of time. I had several passage of time moments where I felt old at this convention, like more than before, and I am just like, no. But I had fun. That panel was great. I took a million pictures of his museum because, yes, I waited in line because that's the kind of person I am. I'm staring at my very scary pile of laser discs. Help.
Help!
I'm just surprised
me.
I'm just surprised that Kurt got a Laserdisc player to work because they are just very famously fickle.
It's
and
true.
I was just like, you got it to work? Hello? And I loved it a lot. And I've always loved the way that Kurt does his panels, whether they are comedic or informational. Again, the way he packages information is great, or the way that he just literally will not prepare the crowd for what's next. And it's great.
Well, he's going to love all this gassing up whenever he listens to this episode.
I will
I'm sure.
gas Kurt up. I always will gas Kurt up.
I will say, speaking of Kurt, I got to see Awesomely Bad for the first time, and it was
a fun show.
Magnifique.
It was so
lives up
good
to its
this
name.
year. I had to leave early, but because of the live trigger drawing, which we will get to.
Yes.
But I still have that weird truck music video
Oh,
inside
yeah.
of my mind. With the girl, and they were going towards her.
That's one way to say it.
But Chocolate Man, that's the best one in my book.
Any other fan panels that really stood out to everyone? We tried to go to see, what was it? Something about Japanese cat culture or something like that.
Yes, and it capped very quickly.
Oh my God.
It capped.
Could you say that panel was the cat's meow?
I mean, I would like
It
to,
must
but I
have
don't know.
been.
I didn't get to see it.
I think the only thing I ended up attending other than Kurt's panel, we sat in on the environmentalism panel a little bit. I made
Yes.
sure my butt was in the seat for both of the trigger panels.
Yes.
And then we went into the AMV contest for a little bit, and that was really fun. We made it in for the comedy portion of it, and I actually had a giggle or two.
Yeah, there was a Higurashi one that was set to like some song about a girl trying to kill a guy that she's dating or something, and I'm just like, that's the perfect song.
Well, it was about her being obsessed with the human centipede.
Oh, never mind. That's
That
it.
song. That's very fitting
Yeah.
because I remembered the era of Higurashi AMVs in 2007 when every single one of them was set to a mindless, self-indulgent song.
Oh boy.
Yes.
Yeah.
There was a lot of stuff on the schedule that I was very intrigued by, and unfortunately I didn't make it to a lot of it because we were either too late and it capped, or we were just doing something else and couldn't quite make it to it. But I got into the two most important panels I wanted to see, so I guess that counts.
To go back a little bit to the environmentalism panel, we saw like maybe 20 minutes of it, but it did kind of strike me as very high quality. Basically the guy was like taking certain series that have like a strong ecological focus and sort of like unpacking it, sort of explaining, oh, this is how this show interacts with the natural world. This connects to, this principle of, ecology theory or practice or whatever. He clearly knew his stuff, and it was quite fascinating to hear him talk about, some series that, that have like interesting interplays with the environment. Like he talked about a couple like big given ones like Laid Back Camp, and he talked about like Delicious in Dungeon as like a fantasy version of that, but it still has like a strong cohesive world where it matters. It kind of like the rules of the natural world are like very established, even though they're very fantastical. And then he talked about some ones that maybe aren't in that conversation as much, like Flying Witch, and of course he mentioned my dear friend Nokotan and talked about the Nara Deers, so that made me chuckle. Because I'm watching that show right now. It's one of the few series that I have watched airing recently, and I'm not going to pretend it's an excellent show, but it does give me a couple chuckles every week.
It's good you like it.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, so for panels that I went to go see for fan panels, I ended up in a few aside from Kurt's because, of course, we had to highlight those. I went to Viga's Animary Christmas panel at 9 in the morning and the crack of dawn on Friday.
I'm going to stop you right
Godspeed.
there and say I really wanted to go to that one, but like Tori said, a lot of the ones we wanted to go to were very early.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt
Yeah.
like everything was at 9 in the morning or at midnight or later. There was a shoujo panel. There was several, and I ended up in one that was at a regular time, but there was one at like 12:30 in the morning, and I'm like,
Ooh.
this wasn't even an 18-plus panel. What is this doing here?
Yeah. I'm still salty
just-
about that Psycho-Pass panel that was at like 11:45 on
Yeah.
Friday night or
I
something.
really felt like they put a
Ugh.
lot of the really good panels at old people sleepy time, and it made me very sad.
Yes.
I ended up there, and it was funny. Viga's a great panelist. 10 out of 10. She's a pretty regular panelist at Otakon, so you'll find her around. And then I went to
Awesome.
one right after that, which was by Aaron and Kenzie Do Panels, and it was a panel about shoujo to like josei and lady comics as well, which are like more mature content than josei per se, but they tend to overlap. The Venn diagram is almost a circle, but they're technically different. It was good, very informative. I'm not saying this derogatorily, I'm saying this complimentary, and also the person who I'm talking about also says this in a thought this was flattering. This was very much, they took a lot of information from Brainchild 129 or Megan's article about shoujo and josei that she wrote years ago. I was like watching it, I'm like, huh. They definitely, like, it's definitely their own panel for sure, but it was just like they really referenced Megan's article that she did a lot of research on. And then they did some of their own additional research, and it was still pretty informative, framed in a really interesting way for a panel. They had a lot of really old manga scans, which were a nice inclusion, especially
Oh.
stuff from
Very cool.
before, like the shoujo coinage, like especially stuff from like pre-war Japan.
Oh,
So I
wow.
found that to be pretty interesting too. And anything else that I went to, there was a bunch that I missed. And the
Same.
Anime in Late Night, which
I went
Coop
there
and
too,
I
yeah.
also went, and I'll let Coop talk about that
yeah,
one.
so that was run by George Horvath, and
Okay.
yeah, it was a lot of. It was cool for me. It was cool to see a lot of different, interesting looking shows I hadn't heard of before. So it was a good little panel. I don't have much more to say on that. That was
So
funny.
what's the thesis of that one? What's the
yeah,
angle?
yeah. He was going through just kind of the history of late night anime, how it came to be, and how
It kind of became central to anime as a whole. Because
Yeah.
most anime now are in the late night slot, which is really interesting.
Oh, so he's talking about like late night anime, like in Japan.
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
That,
yes,
that
yes, yes,
late
yes.
night slot in
Yeah.
Japan, like post prime time after 11 p.m.
We were talking about this while we were out and about earlier today. He talked about the original Canon show, and we for a minute confused it with the AnimEigo announcement of Full Moon
Sagashite.
Sagashite.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Not the
for a
same
hot
thing.
second there. So yeah, there was that, and also maybe the more jokey line is I noticed George has an incredible resemblance to Ed Helms.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I could just see it.
Now, are you sure it's not Ed Helms? Like, is that really out of the realm of possibility?
I don't know. Maybe Anime's head Ed Helms has a good. Then again, my good friend on Giant Robot FM and Speedrunner PMC Trilogy has been clocked with the Ed Helms quite a bit, but I think he looks more like the Proclaimers, like one of those twins.
Oh, interesting.
So
I think my favorite part of the late night panel, though, was when they brought in the brain powered OP.
oh yeah.
And me, Coop, and our mutual friend Russell Latshaw were the only people who literally shouted, "Yeah!"
So for a question, have you guys seen that opening?
I have. I've heard the song. It's a pretty good song.
It slaps.
I cannot think about that without remembering the Anime World Order episode where they had Mike Toole on to talk about Brain Powered, and he does his like own lyrical rendition of the opening, and it's very, very funny. If you haven't heard that, you should look it up.
Yeah,
But anyway,
it's
yes,
just,
I know
it's
brain
really one
powered.
of those shows, and like I remember because I was sitting on the edge of y'all, and we were the only people who shouted. And I distinctly remember some people behind me. I'm pretty sure they were my age too, late 20s, early 30s, and they were like, "I've never heard of that one. I don't know. Like, what? I'm surprised that these people know about it because they were the only people that were like saying anything." I'm like, you have to be a real one to be even willing to dip your toes in that.
Oh boy, brain powered.
And it's funny
It's
because
a television show.
they like completely dubbed it and everything. So I guess Bandai thought it was gonna take off a little bit, but it never did.
Yeah, and it was, people always forget it was Romy Park's first foray into being a voice actor.
Wow, is she the lead?
She was a side character. Kanan was her name. Was the character's name, and then Tomino liked her so much as the role of Kanan that Tomino was like, "You, now my protagonist in Turn A Gundam," and casted her as Lauron immediately.
I
There you
will
go.
say, on another note, real quick, if you two should watch Turn A Gundam, because holy crap, like, even if you're not into that, like, Turn A
The show.
is an amazing. The best way is like one of the best immigrant stories in anime I've ever seen in my entire life. Is like the best way I can describe it, and it's so relatable because it takes place in a version of like 1910s America in a lot of ways. So, and there's a lot of juxtaposition between, you see biplanes versus giant robots designed by Sid Mead of Blade Runner fame. Like,
Oh wow.
it's like, it's not on streaming, but if you have a wild hair to go pick up a Blu-ray or the DVD even, I highly recommend it. It is excellent. Even if you're really not into Gundam, that's one show I just have to recommend because it's so strong.
It's also fundamentally different from the other ones, so like don't worry, like if you don't think the other Gundam shows will be your thing, like this one will more than certainly be. Just give it a shot. And I'm also addressing the entire audience with this one.
Yeah, Tori's a Gundam Wing kid,
Yo, same.
Yeah.
as many folks in our age bracket were.
I have to ask, Tori, have you heard the Italian opening for Gundam Wing?
I don't think I ever have.
Okay, I'm sending this to you right now.
Okay.
This will be in the show notes.
So let me put this in.
Hey, we'll even play it as like a break music. So you listening at home, you'll get to hear this shortly.
You'll get to see it with your ears.
There we go. Oh, wrong chat. I put this in an ANN thing.
Oh no.
Oh, they'll appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Thank you.
There we go. And now I have it playing in the background. Okay, there you go.
Thank you.
Yeah, actually, to my shame, I have hoarded more Gundam on home video than I have watched. So I actually already have Turn A Gundam on DVD because I found it for really cheap at our local used bookstore probably like 2 years ago, and I've just had it and sat on it, and I've had this false notion that I would get through all the UC stuff first and then go into the other stuff, but I think I just need to watch the things that are good first and then watch all the other things later. Like I've seen G-Witch, really enjoyed that. I've seen the Yaz trilogy, I liked those. I've seen War in the Pocket. I've seen like half of Stardust Memories.
Yes.
Swag.
And like it's fine.
Yeah, that seems to be the consensus on that.
It's got a lot of cool designs and cool concepts, but it
does.
has some juice and it kind of runs out of juice. But
Yes.
Gato is hot.
It's very important to me as like a Shinichiro Watanabe fan. It's like part of his history. Because he was the episode director on a lot of that. And then I really liked The Origin. I really enjoyed Gundam The Origin. Thought that was really good.
Oh yeah.
But so yeah, I did my toe in the Gundams. So that's kind of our experience like on the fan side, which there's certainly like tons of quality over there, and like Otakon is like has this reputation that I have understood to be like very, very particular about their panel acceptance. So a lot of people get rejected, and it's not just the particularity of their choosing process, it's the fact that they just get so many submissions. So it does kind of make me a little bit not scared, but apprehensive about possibly doing panels there in the future, because I feel like they wouldn't accept me anyway. I think I might try next year. We'll see.
I will say, and I think Maddie might be on the same page as this, you guys have a proven track record, and I think that...
Well, thanks.
I think especially... And I especially think that's a big thing for them. If you have a proven track record, if you're going to show up and you're going to do it, I think that you'll be a little more likely because you'll be a sure bet. Like, hey, you'll be there. So I think that's a big thing.
However, I do know some people without proven track or with proven track records that didn't get in and those without.
Right.
But honestly, what I was going to say was that this year, because they had over 700 panel submissions, they tried to space it out. Like, not all of Kurt's usual Otakon panels got accepted this year. And they tried to give as many individual contributors, like, a panel spot as possible this year. I noticed that.
I can respect that.
Even, like, there was another group of panelists that typically does at least 6 panels. People who go to Otakon know who these people are. I don't think they're very good panelists, so I'm just not going to name them. They only got 2 this year. So, and there's been years where I've gone where they've gotten 10 panel slots and they only got 2. So, like, these people are regulars, and so the fact that they only got 2 means they really tried to give as many, like, different people slots, which is why, like, I definitely think with your proven track record and them trying to space things out combined, your likelihood of getting a panel is high.
Well, they didn't have any panels about Spider-Man on the schedule, so I have to go fill in, of course.
However, Nagahama did talk about Spider-Man on his Sunday panel.
Of course
Fear not.
he
Oh,
did.
nice.
Of course he did. Whenever I met him at AnimEigo last year, he was wearing his Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark Broadway show t-shirt. And I'm just like, that's how you know he's really in the weeds.
He was wearing a Across the Spider-Verse shirt this year.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, we certainly might. We'll give it a shot. But to kind of change gears a little bit, the vast majority of the panels that at least Tori and I went to were from the industry guests. So tons of amazing creators were there this weekend. Like, we had representatives from Studio Trigger, mostly there to talk about Delicious in Dungeon. They had a bunch of folks from I can't remember the name of the studio off the top of my head, but it's whichever studio is currently doing the 3rd season of Laid Back Camp. They were there. Studio Orange was there. Of course, they've done titles like Trigun Stampede and Beastars and Idolish 7, things like that. Very, very highly regarded as one of the best like 3D CG studios in the industry. I think we've certainly talked about them, in depth at our Beastars review in the past. And then, of course, on the video game angle, a huge, massive amount of turnout and guests for Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
So they had not only voice actors from Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, but also Final Fantasy XIV, Final Fantasy XVI, and some of the developers of VII Rebirth. So it was kind of a convention catered specifically to me, with Trigger being there, with VII Rebirth people being there, with Laid Back Camp people being there, which unfortunately I didn't get to see any of their stuff, which I really hate.
I know, I'm also so bummed. I loved Laid Back Camp.
Yeah, it's such a good show.
Yeah.
It's so cute.
Man, Austin, if they just had Haley Joel Osment there, it would have been a perfect show for you.
I know. I was joking at after we went. I got to go. Thankfully, on Sunday, the wonderful developers of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth stayed like 30 minutes longer than their autograph session was scheduled for. I just think they were just having a wonderful time, and I know, Maddie, you can speak to this because you got to go get your stuff signed too.
Hell yeah.
I did make a point to tell Hamaguchi and Kitase that if they were going to come back next year, they need to drag Nomura along with them. So that would have gotten me. That would have gotten me pretty. I think I got pretty close meeting them to meeting Haley Joel Osment. What do you say? Only like 2 degrees of separation.
Pretty close. Well,
Yeah.
okay. So
Maybe
if
one.
If he does come, you know, Austin, you got to be in the most zippered out outfit to ever be zippered ever.
I'm ready.
You just gotta have you just gotta have an outfit just made of zippers, and that's it. And the biggest clown shoes you've ever seen in your entire life.
Yeah, that's just my normal everyday workwear, actually. So.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
Wow, I didn't know librarians like to shop at Hot Topic. That's awesome.
Of course they do. Are you kidding me? And the Disney store.
Oh my gosh.
But anyway, yes. Industry panels. I guess let's talk about Trigger first. So they did a number of panels. Tori, I know you went to 2 of them. But the first one we went to was the live drawing, which was right after the Studio Orange folks doing their presentation on Idolish 7, where they talked about like how they did some of the concert scenes. Like
Yes.
So Otakon does this thing where they don't really do room clears unless explicitly stated. So a lot of times if there's a panel that you're interested in, you just, if you think it's going to fill up, you can like go ahead and go into the panel that's currently going on. And that's what we did for this one. So we got to catch a little bit of the orange panel, waiting for the Studio Trigger panel. But they had three folks there. They had the president, of course, who is Masahiko Otsuka. And then they had 2 animators. I'm going to...
Oe Abe and Sai Otani.
Thank you. Do you have this in front of you, or you just have a really good memory?
I just remember it.
Yeah, I
Thank
didn't remember it. I wish I could have said that Coop added notes, but nope, Coop's got good memory.
Fantastic. So, yes, they were all there, and that was a really, really fun experience. But, Tori, I'll hand it over to you to talk about it.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to say they're haters because they didn't draw Laios. They drew, they let the audience yell out who they wanted them to draw, and I think they knew they were going to do this from the start and didn't actually take any of it into account.
Probably.
But they they drew Chilchuck and Marcel, and it kind of went back and forth between the guy who runs their YouTube channel, whose name I'm also blanking on. He was interpreting and...
I know his name. Kenta Kawahara, I believe is his name.
Thank you. So he was going kind of back and forth between hosting and like interpreting for them, asking questions about
and
the
passing
processes.
back and forth the HDMI cable.
That damn HDMI cable, man. I started seeing memes about
were
it
so
popping
good.
up online.
So
I sent one to my friend. Somebody had reposted it
Yeah, that
from
panel
somewhere.
was awesome. I'm sorry I was a Chilchuck yeller, so I will believe that my loud Colombian voice contributed to Chilchuck being chosen. I'm sorry to Laios fans. I just love my short middle-aged kings.
It's okay. I respect it.
I just love the sentence, I apologize for being a Chilchuck yeller. I just love that. That's a great sentence.
But it was really awesome. Like, I was just so blown away at the fact that like they could sit up there in front of an audience and draw like that and like be totally cool about it, and it came out really good. And we actually did we duck out a little bit early?
Slightly, because we had to get somewhere else. But we got to see like the vast majority of their doodles get finished. I don't know if they ended up coloring them or not.
So they colored a little bit of Chilchuck, and they left Marcel mostly uncolored. But the They only posted the still to X, from what I understand, or Twitter. I will misgender Twitter. They only posted a still, but they of the Martial drawing, but it was animated for those who were there.
Yes.
Yeah. I ended up seeing the completed versions the next day in the other panel, but it was just really cool to be able to sit and watch them work on something that they were very passionate about. Like, they seemed to be really big fans of the series and the characters, and it's really cool.
Yeah, they talked about how they were assigned, the two of them, to do like certain cuts in the show, especially like the scene where they get reunited with Fallon, and there's the scene of Marcel and Fallon in the bathtub, or the bathroom, whatever. Not a tub, it's just like a bath, I guess, just a bath. And how like they were assigned specifically because the team wanted like 2 women to work on that scene, and I thought that was really interesting to hear about. And
I love the outcome.
Yes.
I love the outcome.
They're just really good friends, guys.
Yeah,
I love when the whole room erupted into laughter, like / cheering. When that happened, I was in the both category of howling. So, yeah.
And then they talked about how like the two of them seem to be just like really good work buddies. Like, they'll often hop onto Discord calls and sort of like encourage each other, or, you know, have back and forths about their art. And Otsuka seemed like, oh wow, interesting that you do that. It's kind of like very much like a old man seeing how the youngins work these days. Was pretty fascinating. And they also talked about how you know, once you get to a certain proficiency point, you don't really get praise like you used to. You just kind of take their skill for granted. So for them to, you know, be in that room and receive like just so much love, you could really tell that they were just eating it up.
And I love they were like the demo reels for their animation, but you could tell like these were more than demo reels. These were hype reels more than anything else. And I loved that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
To get the crowd even more pumped up and hooting and hollering for different scenes. It was so good.
It's been nice the last couple of years to see Trigger at Otakon bringing along animators who aren't as well known, as opposed to the Trigger
Just like rolling
bunch.
out Imaishi again.
Yeah, because
I would like to meet Imaishi again.
Me too.
Because I think at some point, like Imaishi, Sushio, Wakabayashi, all those folks, they're getting old. They're getting older. They're not getting any younger.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see new talent being fostered, and also being like, hey, here they are. Here are these people.
Yeah, like even Yoshinari, who I think of as kind of a younger guy, was like, nope, he started on Evangelion like 35 years ago, or 30 years ago almost.
Yeah.
Crumbles to
Most of those guys
dust.
are probably in their 50s, I would imagine now.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, back to what you said, Maddie, about the hype reel. I always love whenever bless you.
bless you.
Bless you.
Thank you.
whenever I can like whenever I can identify like a specific animator and then see what specific cuts they worked on, because that's not something that's like that easy to find out all the time, unless you're looking in like a storyboard book or something like that, or like the individual animators like post it online as part of their portfolio. So like it's hard to know unless they show you what they specifically worked on as part of the series. And every time I do that, every time I see that, it's just very, very fascinating and delightful to me.
So, speaking of Trigger, did you guys also sneak into the live cooking panel as well?
I made it into the live tasting panel. We queued up, my friend and I, thank God for her being a real one, because I made her queue up, like, I think we queued up like 2 hours before the actual panel.
Wow.
And I had to miss this one for the Final Fantasy VII thing, but please continue.
So basically they had a lady who worked for Otakon. I can't remember if she said she was the head of catering or she was the head of something that involved getting food to the staff and guests and things like that. She came out on stage and spoke to them because she was the one who curated the meal. They recreated the hot pot from the first episode with like lobster and mushroom, and it looked so good. So they were served that, and they had the audience submit questions via a Google form. And they were answering audience questions while they were eating their food. The panel actually went by really quickly. They didn't get too many questions in, but they got asked, which I thought was really cute because they got very into it, which of Marcial's hairstyles was their favorites. And so they went through the different like reference sheets and basically were like, okay, stop on this one, it's this one. And they chose the one where she has like half of her hair back and her bangs are down and there's some braids. And then the one where she's got these like really thick kind of like sort of braids in her hair. Like she's wearing pigtails, I think. And that was really fun to see.
Yeah, that was definitely one point of emphasis during the live drawing as they talked about the absurd number of hairstyles for Marcel, something like 30 different hairstyles, which is very, very, very uncommon.
Yeah. I was actually really shocked we made it in there. We got front row, kind of like off to the side, and was able to see everything really well. Yeah, it was really, really mind-blowing.
Cool.
Yeah, meanwhile, I was in the attempt to queue up for Nagahama, and then staff told us over an hour in advance. It's already capped. Don't even bother.
Was this just for his panel?
For the delicious and in dungeon like live tasting, it capped over an hour in advance per what the head of main events told us.
Oh wow!
Who was also in the line for Nagahama with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Nagahama line. We'll get to that in a bit.
I'm just chomping at the bit because I've got so much to say.
It was an experience that also kind of affected the panels I covered, but we'll get to that here in a little bit.
Well, you mentioned it. I mean, we're talking about industry panels. I mean, go
This
ahead
is
and tell us
true.
your story. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
So I covered a handful of panels for Anime News Network this year. You can all read about them. They're all up now. First one was attending a panel presented by the calligrapher Seta. He's done a lot of calligraphy work in Jujutsu Kaisen, Attack on Titan, to name a few shows. And it was really cool seeing how he mixes digital and traditional methods. And he did a bunch of examples, and also some of the lucky people in the audience got original pieces of calligraphy art from him.
Amazing.
So that was super cool. I recommend going to ANN for that and checking that out. And then I went to the special talkback panel, the first of two for the wrong way to use healing magic, which I found out, which is like one of the very first isekai stories at the top of the recent boom we're in right now. Boom might be a little generous because there's a bit of a bubble with that happening.
The recent wave, you mean, maybe?
Yes.
Okay.
But I was really struck by how passionate people were about it, and also the people on stage. A lot of the crew behind it, the original author of the light novels was up there, a voice actor, Kentaro Ito. They were all super excited about it and super passionate, and I'm like, I'm not a huge isekai person, but I can't help but admire the passion they have for this project and how excited everybody was when the producer, Kurosawa-san, was like, "Hey, we just got the green light 2 days ago that we're doing a season 2," and everybody was so excited. It goes back to what I was talking about, that personal, intimate element with anime industry stuff that's kind of lacking right now. Like, it was a perfect moment of that. Even if I wasn't into the isekai stuff, I could really appreciate that these people loved their work, and they were able to share that with an audience who loves what these people made. So
I have to ask, you know, because I'm kind of with you. Like, I'm very picky about isekai. Much of it just kind of, you know, goes right over my head, or just seems kind of like seasonal mush. So what do, you know, based on your experience at that panel, what do the fans like? What do they ask about? What do they care about? What's kind of their angle?
So a lot of them were talking about how they just really love the show, but there was one, I mentioned this in my write up about it for ANN. There was one woman who came up and said, "Hey, my husband got me into this, and thank you for writing such strong women in your show and in the books, because most of the isekai stuff her husband has showed her is super ecchi, is super ecchi. It's like big boobs and ridiculous." And it was nice that like the producer and the director were like, "Yeah, we kind of had a go ahead from the mandate from the beginning that this is going to be like," they called it a youth adventure story. So it's going to be for a wider audience, a younger audience, and they didn't want to go too crazy. Like, it's like no over the top fan service and no over the top blood. And they talked about how they were very specific about their tones of blood and how they depicted it. Like, there's a lot of care put into it. Not to say that Healing Magic's contemporaries aren't put with care, but it seemed like for these folks, it was, for the fans, it was more than just a show they watched, and for the creators, it was more than just a show they made.
Sure. Yeah.
I do appreciate, based on what you said, it was just like, even the author of the book themselves also said, like, yeah, none of the ecchi material, none of the classic isekai misogyny. This is just a book for young boys, like, literally, and that's all it is, and the show translates from everything I've heard. And I'm like, oh, maybe I should actually try this. Weird for me, because I don't isekai doesn't just fly over my head. I'm very antagonistic about most of it, so.
That's really refreshing to hear, though, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is good to hear.
And also, it was refreshing to hear, too, because part of my day job is actually, I edit an isekai light novel for J Novel Club called Magic Stone Gourmet. So I've become very familiar with the structure of light novels, especially isekai ones. So it was interesting to hear from the original creator himself talking about his process and how it's adapted from there. It was just really nice to hear, especially from both a personal and professional perspective. It was a great talk.
Cool. I'll have to read your piece. I mean, like I said, I don't really have much familiarity with the source material, but it definitely sounds like a story worth hearing about, or an account worth hearing about.
So with the last one I covered, and I'll choose my words very carefully with this, I covered a panel about a gentleman talking about the differences between the K-pop industry and the U.S. market. It was fascinating. It did feel more like something you'd hear at a business conference or a trade show. But yeah, I will kind of just go ahead and let the piece speak for itself on that one. I did my best to be even-handed towards what he was saying and towards fans and that kind of stuff, because I know K-pop fans are very, very passionate about what they love, and I understand that passion.
Coop's trying to say he got some haters.
The deranged ones.
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
Which, as a K-pop fan myself, and I can speak for Tori as well, sorry.
It's okay.
Big sorry.
I was a K-pop fan like 15 years ago, so I also feel
Here's the thing. I'm trying to be charitable to them, because I was once a kid who liked certain things like anime or whatever way too much, like certain series, and got overly defensive about it. I get that. I get where they're coming from on that. If there's things that they're like, I don't know about that, I understand that. So I'm trying to be charitable and understanding with that because when you're younger, you don't like. You may not like it when something you really love is put under the microscope by somebody who maybe not be as intimate with the material as you are.
Right. I will say that Coop literally just wrote up a panel. That's all they did.
Yeah.
They were not. This was not an opinion piece of any variety or any editorial. This was just. This is what happened at the panel. This is what the guys.
There was a bit of an editorial in there, but again, I tried to handle it with the most even hand possible.
And I think you succeeded in that. I've read that piece specifically because I was like, oh, K-pop, interesting. Especially because we didn't get to do any of the K-pop stuff at Otakon, which is kind of one of their other pillars, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And that was new too. It was new for I think 22. It was new for them, like for having as much K-pop as they did.
Yeah, when I read that, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I know the con organizers have been making a big effort to include more Asian media than just Japan-centric stuff over the last while. But go ahead, Tori.
Oh, I was going to say, I'm a little sad that I, missed out on that panel. So I read your article, and I thought it was really funny that he had gotten up there and actually vocalized some of the discourse that you actually hear in the fandom, like as a professional. And I was like, whoa, like, okay. Because that criticism of Teddy, who produces a lot of Blackpink songs, it's a very common discourse in the fandom to be like, you can tell it's a Teddy song. So, very interesting.
But I will say, speaking of singing and songs, because we have it's a good segue. Hey, the Flow concert was pretty good. I was lucky to be able to go there as press.
Did you say Jiboon? Whoa.
I did.
Oh my God.
I will say too, sitting in the press section, I felt so bad for the people who did not have hearing protection because we were literally right in front of one of the speakers on stage left. So it was like right there, and I'm so glad I had the forethought to have those because it would have, like, even just before the show started, even just a microphone announcement was like incredibly loud.
So you heard Jiboon Whoa and then nothing ever again. Yeah,
probably. If you didn't have hearing protection,
it's like the latest chapter of Chainsaw Man. No spoilers, but if you know, you know. If you know, you know. It's gonna be a very, very timely joke.
But I thought about this. What I loved about the Flow concert, I keep on going back to thinking about that personal connection that I think what makes Otakon what it is. And I forget the gentleman's name. He is the lead vocalist of Flow, the gentleman with the red dyed hair. He said during the concert, we are all connected by music and anime, and this connection's eternal. And what I loved about that quote is throughout the show, Flow made it clear that they were like, we wouldn't be here without you guys. We wouldn't be here without Naruto, Eureka 7, Code Geass. Like, we owe everything to you, and we're going to put it all out on the stage for you to enjoy. And it was a great show. It's that personal element, that intimate connection thing that just, I was nostalgic because I remember hearing these songs back when I was like in middle school and going through high school, but especially the Naruto stuff. But now it's just like, I don't know. There's that, again, that personal element throughout the concert that really, really, really endeared me to them even more.
It's the sauce.
Like, if you want just like the smallest taste of this personal element I'm talking about, I highly recommend watching the First Takes video. I think they did both Sign and Go. Go specifically, they talk about, before they start singing, how much the song means to them and the people who
Wow.
latched onto the song, how they propelled them. I recommend checking those out so you can get a feel of it, because it's so genuine. It's, if I'm just to be a slightly petty, it's more genuine than the last topic we talked about, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, The First Take is a wonderful YouTube channel. They make such great content with, getting these really intimate live performances from some amazing singers and bands from across Asia. So I love watching their stuff. I'll watch pretty much anything that ends up on there. But,
Oh yeah.
I'm really glad that you said that about the Flow concert. I hate that I couldn't make it, because kind of like what you were alluding to, they represent like a very specific time in anime that I think a lot of us of this age have a lot of fondness for, even if we don't love all those shows, or maybe they haven't aged as well, maybe we don't like them as much as we used to. It's still like that soundscape of that time. I will always like adore the first and the fourth, I believe, Code Geass openings, just because it just represents that like a moment in time that I love. And Flow's also just really good. They're like some of the best like J-rock bands out there. They're awesome.
Yep. I will say that I am not embarrassed to say that the first 135 episodes of Naruto are pretty good.
Sure.
They're pretty good. Like right up until Sasuke kind of betrayal and exit, like, feed me Naruto, like, please. Like, it wasn't my first exposure to anime and wasn't what made me ultimately curious, but that's what got me online and posting. So I owe it to Naruto. In 2005, when the dub kind of came around, I was like, oh shit.
Hey Maddie.
Yes?
That was almost 20 years ago.
Oh, stop. Please don't mention
So here's another thing I just realized I'll make everybody feel old. AVGN celebrated 20 years this year.
Oh, God.
That's the one I always whip out.
God.
Oh man. I guess good for that guy. He's still doing it.
Yeah, you gotta take us back to the past, man.
Yeah.
Another
Still angry.
industry thing real quick that I wasn't able to do, but I got to go to their booth, because every one of the industry panels for this was on top of like a fan panel I really wanted to go to, and then over the AnimEigo panel, which I thought was rude. Probably two exact listeners on this podcast are going to know who this industry guest. So Hainuli was there, and she is a Korean fashion designer that I admire. I wanted to go to her panel so bad because Hainuli is alive. Like, her brand is back with the help of that. Her name is Iris Garden, I believe. She's a girl based out of LA, and she just, not only did she help people like shopping service from some Korean brands that just weren't as available online, like Dear Margaret among others for EGL fashion, she successfully brought Hainuli out of hiatus, and now they're making designs again. I went to their booth, and I went with two dudes, and I just had to explain to them the entire like fashion. I've been wearing EGL since 2014. My bulging armoire is going to have to get shoved into a bunch of trash bags when I move to California soon. All 45 of my dresses. Oh,
It's time to break out the iron when you unpack them.
Oh, I know. Or take them to the steamer or something, because all of them are too delicate for the iron.
Yeah,
or
that's
just
true.
putting them out in the heat, but away from the sun, and just praying to God that they unwrinkle, or just let gravity do the work. But I was just like, this is Hainuli. She's very influential. She was one of the first non-Japanese brands to really, be like, oh, non-Japanese brands can make good stuff, actually.
Yes.
And so I had to explain it, and I took them to the Renova and the BB&B booth, these two dudes, and I was just like, do you see why this necklace is $180? Because look at that. That actually looks like food that you can put in your mouth, and it's made by hand.
No, don't eat it.
Yeah.
You'll hurt your teeth. It's really tough clay. So it's so... I had fun with that. I really wanted to go to the panels, but it was over I believe one of Kurt's panels, and the AnimEigo panel was the other one. So I was like, well, I guess I'm not doing any Lolita. I was going to wear some, but it would have been way too hot. And by the grace of God, I forgot my petticoat, which completely eliminated me from making a terrible decision.
Yeah, I stopped by her booth and I got to see the Winnie the Pooh collaboration in person, and I was like, oh man, I want this so bad. Yeah! It was so cute.
It's so good. Do you wear EGL, Tori?
I used to. I still have all my dresses and stuff, but I just kind of got out of it because I don't really wear it outside of conventions, but I refuse to part with any of my dresses because I love them too much.
I feel this. It's just been too hot at Otakon for me to wear them. I've worn EGL both years that I've been so far aside from this one, and I ended up having to change out of it in 5 hours because I would like nearly get like heat stroke. It was so bad.
You did you not wear your one at AWA this year, or am I thinking of last year? No, we didn't go last year.
We didn't go last year. I think the last time I wore any Lolita was like Animazement last year or the year before.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. No, we went to Anime Weekend Atlanta last year, but not the year before. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Yes. It's the one that you wore with the
I
short
wear
silver
Lolita
wig.
in public all the time, so that's just me.
Yeah. I used to, and then I don't know what happened. I just stopped.
Mm-hmm. Well, you gotta have somebody like Maddie around to like kick your butt to be like, hey, get back in that stuff.
It's global
That's
warming.
fair.
'Cause, like in Texas, like there's a 6-month period where I don't wear any dresses unless I know I'm gonna be running from my car or from my apartment to my car to the location, and then running back into the car and then running back. Like it's just too hot. Like,
Oh, for sure.
This world is getting too hot to wear pretty clothes. I cannot be snatched. It stinks.
It's a gosh darn shame.
So, really silly question, since you mentioned Anime Weekend Atlanta. Is there a Wawa usually near the show?
Tori, you're the Wawa expert.
You kind of cut out a little bit. You said, "Is there a Wawa
Is there a Wawa near the convention center for AWA?
near the convention
think so.
center?" I
because
don't think so.
I was gonna say because Wawa at the Wawa
Hey!
is...
Oh my god.
Hey!
That is too... Yeah. Somebody passed it along to Dave Merrill.
Oh my god. I think somebody is gonna go, "You're wrong," but I feel like Wawas are more of a northern thing.
Yeah, I don't
could
think
be
they're that far south.
I've seen them in Florida.
Okay.
So
Oh yeah, they
Oh,
are in
wow, okay.
Florida.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's like
Well, there's no
Mid-Atlantic
rules
on
in
up
Florida.
and
It's
Florida.
made up.
This is
No.
true. Florida is an illusion.
Yep. Exactly.
I did just Google, and they are planning to open a Wawa in Atlanta or just in Georgia sometime by the end of the year.
Well,
Let's
there you go.
Yes.
And we're getting a Buc-ee's like less than a mile.
Hell
less
yeah.
than a
God, I'm so
hour.
excited.
I have to take Coop and myself one last time to one of the biggest Buc-ee's in Texas, which is literally only 15 miles from me. It's
Oh,
the
there you
Katy
go. Oh, my Lord.
location with the world's longest car wash. That one.
Do we need to go through the world's
I've
longest
heard
car
the
wash?
tales.
Maybe, you know,
Yeah,
we
maybe.
could. But no, my
Oh.
car gets picked up tomorrow.
Well, we'll use the rental car for that.
Oh man, I'm adding that to my bucket list immediately. Like things to do before I die. See the world's
Your-
biggest Buc-ee's.
Your
That
Buc-ee's
Buc-ee's,
list.
it isn't even the biggest one
God.
anymore, but it's the biggest one near
Uh-huh.
me. But that Buc-ee's used to sell guns, and I distinctively remember
Oh
them.
my
You could buy a
God.
Glock off the wall. I remember before the El Paso shooting.
Well, not to
Yep.
stereotype, but it is Texas, so.
Yup.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
that's
used to be
true.
able to buy like shotguns and semi-automatics off the wall in Walmarts around
Wow.
here.
Yeah.
You would see them; they'd just be on display.
Mm.
Yep.
I just think of
True.
the Family Guy bit where Brian buys liquor in Texas and he gets handed a handgun.
Yeah.
They have stricter rules about buying liquor down here than buying automatic weapons. It's
Yeah.
actually it's
Wow.
depressing.
That's
Oh,
really
dear.
sad.
But instead of stuff that's not quite depressing, how about that AnimEigo Discotek double feature?
The
Man.
Anime Super Bowl.
What a treat, honestly. Yeah, like that specific double feature was something I was really looking forward to. Is like a must do at the convention, because I've never been to I've been to an AnimEigo panel before, because as you guys might be aware, Robert Woodhead was based out of Wilmington, which is on the coast of North Carolina. So he came to Animazement many, many, many times. He did lots of, Kickstarter updates or Kickstarter announcements at Animazement as like his official like panel of the year. I distinctly remember a few years ago, I think this was for the Gunsmith Cats release, where he he said there was an issue with the text of like the copyright the copyright text on like a sticker sheet that he had made. Like there was a typo or something got left off or something like that, and he realized that it would be cheaper to just make a bunch of stickers to sticker over the typo rather than to print all of those sheets over again. So he showed this time-lapse video of him sitting at his kitchen table re-stickering all the sticker sheets, and it was really, really funny.
This is levels of the ADV crew recording all of the Evangelion dub in Matt Greenfield's living room in Southeast Houston. Yeah.
Yes.
It's got that type beat.
It's that sort of level of I'm gonna do something ridiculous because something bad happened, but I'm gonna turn it into a great joke sort of thing, which I always love that. Really appeals to my sense of humor. But yeah, as we are all aware, as many listeners probably know, AnimEigo is under new ownership under Justin Savakis. So unfortunately, its days in North Carolina are numbered. But I guess everything has to come to an end at some point.
Not just yet though, because like Justin said, the panel, Robert has a couple projects still in the kiln, perhaps.
This is true.
For Kickstarter, so keep an eye open for those.
Right. So he's got Macross 2 to finish up, and maybe something else after that. But that being said, this was very much like, I saw somebody on Blue Sky refer to it as Neo AnimEigo, and I really like that title.
I saw that.
Yes, very, very clever. Justin should just use that. That'd be perfect. But anyway, they did that panel, and it was like half Justin doing like updates on existing announcements, did a few brand new announcements, at least 2, and then did audience Q&A for the second half, which I was really impressed with the audience Q&A. I don't think anybody asked a boneheaded question except the one person that asked like 2 questions, and then the last one was more of a comment, but that was like the only one. But 9 out of 10 were really good. But yes, being able to see Justin Savakis in person, along with Mike Toole and Brady Hartle and just that whole crew, I was just like, wow, these people exist outside of Twitch or YouTube. I was like, it's amazing. They are real.
Can't confirm they exist.
Yep. And AnimEigo announced their very first brand new licenses since the ownership has been transferred over, and one of them was Time of Eve. And the other one was Full Moon. Like, what is it? Like, Looking at the Full Moon is the English title, something like that.
And that was the official English title written on the Japanese discs too, no less. And yet it was still Full Moon no Sagashite over here, and I thought that was so funny.
And Justin asking the audience what they would prefer, whether Looking at the Full Moon or Full Moon wo Sagashite, which one people would prefer, and everybody was like, both.
It was both on the Japanese discs. You can do that. I don't mind looking though. Like, seriously, I don't mind.
And that's pretty cool, because that's kind of an interesting swerve from what they are typically known for, which is like the the 80s OVA stuff, and this is like a early 2000s Magical Girl series, which is it 50? Is it like 50 something episodes, or is it just 26?
So.
It's just about 50.
Okay, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's shoujo magical girl with tragic elements because our protag has cancer. I really liked the Q&A session that they held afterwards, and even though I was one of the people that asked the very serious business questions, because I am a corporate person to fund my anime habits, that I wish I could just buy anime as full-time job. But there were lots of people that were asking some pretty serious business questions, and I actually really appreciated that, being like, wow, people are taking this acquisition really seriously.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of that. Let's go. And a lot of people are really invested in seeing AnimEigo thrive under new ownership, and it seems like everybody is in unanimous song and agreement that Justin Savakis was pretty much the only person to take this over.
I
agree with that more.
As a panel, just speaking as a fan, not a person who works with them, I like the town hall aspect of it. That with Justin moving around, he's having an actual conversation with the audience instead of just staying up behind the table the whole time, because he wanted to, it was like bringing in that intimate feel I've been talking about this whole time. And I think that's, again, like he was talking, that's something that people want to see again, and I think is sorely needed.
It's good to put a face to the company, especially when that face is running around and giving you free things.
Yeah, or some dude's like, hey, face of anime company, take off your shirt and give it away as a prize.
God, that was so funny.
Well, it wasn't quite like that. I think what was the actual situation where like he was out of larges, and then the person was like, well, you're wearing one.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
The thirsting in the panel and apparently on Twitter was really a lot. Good for him. Good for him.
It's all quite silly.
He joked on Blue Sky of maybe opening an OnlyFans to start for getting licensing money.
Crowdfunding, I guess, continuing on.
And then for Discotek, I think it was a good panel. For me, as somebody who works with them, it was exciting not knowing everything, so there was a couple surprises in there for me, but also specifically it was nice sitting in the middle of the crowd and just hearing the reaction. Like, for instance, the girl sitting next to us, who lost it when the Kiss X Sis TV series was announced.
And it wasn't Lord. The thing is, the fact that I couldn't tell whether they were horrified or genuinely excited was really scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I leaned over to Megan, who I introduced myself to this weekend because we hadn't met before in person, and I said, "You're the one with the box of pain, right?" And then Megan was like 2 people over me, and I leaned over and I was just like, "Is this the kind of pain you're looking for?" I had to take advantage of the moment.
Oh.
And I'm pretty sure she said something like, "I can't do something like this again."
Megan has seen some stuff in her box of pain, and it certainly reviews on her manga test drive blog some very interesting BL of the grotesque variety, and
I'm
just
sure.
is like, red light, stop. You don't need to subject yourself to this, but I did.
Austin, I love that specifically she said, I don't need to subject myself to this again.
I'm gonna need to ask her this, but I believe she's also seen Junjo Romantica, as have I. I will admit, I don't want to think about that one ever again.
Next licensing announcement from AnimEigo. It's right there.
I will.
Don't put that into the universe.
I will cry. I will cry in anguish.
But yeah, that was a really good, fun panel. I like that they led with some Lupin, which was cool, even though it's more along the lines of one of the weaker Lupin entries because it is kind of just a compilation movie of some Part 4 episodes. But still, love to see more Lupin, and the fact that this sort of marked a pretty momentous moment of them, like, catching up. They've got it all. They've put out all the Lupin that they can put out in terms of, like, the movies and the OVAs. There's still some stuff that they've released in the past that I think was DVD only. It would be nice to see that stuff come back out in HD. But just to see them and be present for this, like, sort of this milestone was, like, pretty cool. It's like a really, really long-term project finally coming to, like, quote-unquote conclusion, even though there's always more Lupin.
I will say I was excited for Kite. I was. Like, I just couldn't believe that one even got announced.
Yeah, that one was interesting because it's like, I don't really know anything about that title. I just know that, like, it's been around for a really long time, and I just thought it was still available because that's like a Media Blasters title or something. But they even kind of addressed that to be like, oh, but this version is going to be like a kitchen sink sort of thing.
Yeah, they have all of the cuts and the uncut version as well. Yeah, that was a big one for me. And I knew that Bismarck was coming, especially after they did
Saber Rider.
Yeah, Saber Rider, because that was the cut of Bismarck, which is a true Galactic Defender Linguini anime for sure.
There's always one.
And I'm glad they did. I'm not a huge fan of Reborn, but I'm glad they're doing the fan disc for What If This Was Dubbed. Because I know every single person I know who's a fan of Reborn is not normal about it. They are all the way over the deep end endearing. And I'm glad that they're getting, their feast. Yes. Especially considering that Reborn is so long.
Yes. That was really interesting for me because Kocha Sound, who they mentioned, is owned by Matt Shipman and Brittany Lauda, who are both voice actors and ADR directors, script writers, everything. And that's, like, Reborn is one of their huge, like, passions. Like, they love that series. And I got to moderate a panel for them back in 2022 at a smaller convention here in North Carolina, and they talked about their love for Reborn because it sort of connects to how they got into anime in general. I think maybe, I don't want to misquote, but like maybe they met through Reborn fandom or something like that. It's like something that's very, very meaningful to both of them. And I was kind of talking to them a little bit. I was just like, well, since you guys love this so much, you have a dubbing studio, maybe you can talk Discotek into letting you, dub the series. And I'm like, this is kind of the fruits of that effort. I can see like really paying off because, like they said at the, and I don't know, maybe when I said that this was already in the works. I'm sure that it was. I mean, this was a couple of years ago, but I'm really happy for them to be able to do this really cool thing, and that Discotek would take sort of a risk on this. Doing something quite unconventional, even though they're not going to be able to dub the whole series. They at least get to do this like really cool passion project and release some of those other OVAs as well to sort of make it a as much of a meaty disc as they can make it.
Yeah, other stuff I was excited for was the fact that they announced Harlock TV. Hello.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Nice HD for that. They announced a lot of stuff that was DVD only for a while. Dalos being one.
What's the other Yaz thing?
Teacher Onizuka.
Giant Gorg.
Giant Gorg. Yes. Everyone should watch Giant Gorg. End of story. I'm not even gonna elaborate. Everyone should watch Giant Gorg.
Do I have to watch regular sized Gorg first?
There is no regular.
Oh my god.
He's only big. He's only big. But yeah, everybody get Giant Gorg. Everybody get Giant Gorg, or I will put it in your walls and send you the bill.
Gorg is a fun adventure series. I've only watched a bit of it. I haven't finished it, but it is very, very enjoyable. I recommend.
It's some good Yas stuff.
Yes.
I've watched most of the Yaz stuff up to this point, so that's kind of it's kind of on the horizon for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think the
Get
only
some
thing
more of your crack. Get some more
Yes.
crack.
I think the only thing I have left from that time period is like the Crusher Joe OVAs that I have not seen yet. But
The
anyway,
movies are okay. You can do the movie. You can do the movie and be
I like
fine.
the movie.
OV is all right.
movie's
Oh,
great.
you're one of the only few people I know who likes that movie.
Really?
But for me,
liked it.
the pacing is rough for me.
Oh,
to
it
be
is.
Yeah,
honest.
Crusher
It is
Joe's
rough.
pacing is rough overall, and I think it's honestly just more suited as a movie. But that's just me. I still think my favorite Yas thing is still Venus Wars.
I just chalk that up to being a Yaz thing because I think a lot of his
Yeah.
stuff kind of has a pacing issue. Arion,
Venus
cough,
Wars
cough.
and Arion are to me are exceptions to the rule.
Venus Wars I like a lot, but I will admit that like the last 45 minutes is just like one long
Yep.
battle
I
sequence.
agree.
Yeah, like it didn't have pacing issues, but it should have ended earlier. I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah, like about with the stadium fight is.
And when
like
the crane falls into the pit.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts on the Discotek panel?
Yay, money being gone.
No, I'm excited that people were able to see stuff that I'd contribute to doing the background boxes, and that the rest of the crew, be it David, Logan, Brady, Justin, Mike, Elaine, yes, everybody who's worked so hard on these projects, that everybody gets to see it, and gets to celebrate that these things they love are coming out soon, and they've been given such love and care. That's the coolest part to me. So I'm just hell yeah.
Well,
I'm glad to be able to watch Kite soon as an adult and not a kid who picked the wrong thing at Blockbuster.
Well, our hats are firmly off to you guys for doing such excellent work all the time because, you know, when a Discotek disc is on my shelf, I know it's going to be quality, which I did go by the table this weekend, but I only bought one thing.
Wow.
I bought not a vintage thing, even though it is over a decade old at this point. I got the Black Rock Shooter series.
Good.
I've been meaning to pick that one up because I remember liking it because I saw it when I was in the end of high school. I think it was like 2012, if I remember correctly. So
Yes.
My favorite Hatsune Miku music video.
It's so good.
Oh yeah.
Black Rock Shooter's great. But yeah, I enjoyed that show as well, even though I do have a few misgivings about it. But the primary reason to watch that series to me is, of course, the opening song, the great designs, and the Hiroyuki Imaishi choreographed fight scenes.
yes.
So
That reminds me, another thing for the Home Video Museum. So back in the day, I ended up getting both the Figma and the Nendoroid of Black Rock Shooter, so I have 2 copies of the original OVA that they packed in. Like,
oh wow,
that's kind of something you don't see too often, is like a pack-in like that.
yeah, you really don't. That's interesting.
That's something for me to throw at Kurt.
Yeah, I bought 3 things this year. I bought Area, the animation, that other Zyram animation. I bought, finally, the Rayearth Memorial Edition.
Ooh.
And I only got 2 things at the Discotek booth this year. Yeah, I did. Because then I bought Hokkaido at Media Blasters, and that was it. Which they ran out of last year in like 2 hours. So I was just like, when am I going to get it? And then I got it.
I think we'll get to other purchases towards the end, but briefly, because I know we're running really long and we've got more to talk about, I wanted to talk about the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth stuff.
Yeah!
So, I'm a longtime Square Enix fan. I've been a Square Enix fan since I was probably 10. So, like, Yoshinori Kitase has been a part of my life, knowing or unknowing, for a really long time. I've loved Final Fantasy VII for decades at this point. And getting to see, and I'm a big fan of the remake rebirth sort of project. I think that's all really, really cool. I'm not one of the fans that thinks it's like just kind of whatever. I think it's like really excellent. So seeing them go all out with the Final Fantasy guests was really exciting. And that sort of crescendoed in the Saturday panel that was kind of midday. It was the reason I couldn't go to the Delicious in Dungeon tasting panel. But they had all of the cast members that were present at the convention. They were all there, in addition to Endo, Hamaguchi, and Kitase. They had the Japanese. They had the American voices for Barrett, Yuffie, Red 13, Sid, Tifa, Aerith. And then they had video calls in from the English voices of Vincent Valentine and Kate Sith, as they insist on pronouncing it. And then they had the Japanese voices of Yuffie and Kate Sith, as they insist on pronouncing it. But it was an incredibly well-moderated panel. I think it was either an Otakon staffer or maybe somebody from Square Enix that came over, asked very pointed and interesting questions like to specific members of the panel, which I thought was really great, because oftentimes whenever I see really, really large panels with numerous guests on them, I always end up being afraid that somebody's going to get the short end of the stick, you know, or multiple people are going to sort of monopolize the conversation. But that did not happen, because they pre-prepared things to like specifically get certain people to talk about things. And it's a lot of great questions. John Bentley made everybody cry, and other people started crying as well.
I heard about that.
Yes. So basically he was talking about some of his inspiration and in some of the more difficult scenes of the game, and talking about how his father's death was a huge thing that he pulled on for a major scene in the game that I won't spoil, but he definitely got a little bit choked up. But the audience was so supportive, so loving, and you could just really feel the love from the whole audience really emanate and be shared amongst the panelists and back and forth. Everybody just seemed to be having a wonderful time. Erica Lindbeck said something interesting where like she did not expect to be playing Jessie for like almost a decade, because she said the first time she got called in to play that role was like all the way back in like 2015 for like a trailer or something like that. And she's just like, it's, you know, the early 2020s now, and I keep getting called back because, you know, there were scenes of Jessie in a flashback in Rebirth, and, you know, that might continue into the third game, who knows. But she just said that, you know, even being such a small part of the, you know, original game, just to see this character expanded the way that she was, and her being able to play her and just make her so much more than what she was in the original game was really special. Trying to think of other things that people said. A lot of love for Queen's Blood, both in the audience and on stage, which is like one of the new mini games for Rebirth. They said they're going to be working on a revamped version for Part 3, which is really exciting. There was an adorable moment where the host asked Suzy Young, who voiced Yuffie, if she could sing like one of the little songs that Yuffie will like randomly sing within the game, like whenever she gets bored or something. And she did it, and it was very cute. And then, not to be outdone, but the Japanese voice actress for Yuffie decided to do the same thing and followed suit.
That's great.
Which was very cute. It was really, really good. The actor that played Kate Sith in Japanese was really funny. He kept asking, like, you know, Yuffie got her own DLC. Where's the Kate Sith DLC? Where's his full game? And all that sort of stuff. And, you know, cracking up jokes and talking about how he didn't know what a Scottish accent was until he heard the English voice actor for Kate Sith, which is really funny. Apparently, in Japanese, they do use like a Kansai Ben accent for Kate Sith, which is really funny because I know they also do that for like a Texas accent. So I'm just like, is Scotland and Texas the same? Sure, why not? Why not? It's an accent. No, there was just so much positive energy. Everybody seemed to just be having a blast, and it even made Teruki Endo cry because he said something like, I can't imagine a better life than what I'm doing, and just, feeding off the energy of the fans, because he's definitely the youngest staff member up there, and he had really never experienced anything like that. He's the battle director, whereas Kitase and Hamaguchi, is that right? Why can't I keep messing names up? Whereas like Kitase and Hamaguchi, they've been around for a really long time, so I think they've done things like this before, but it seemed like this was just incredibly special for everyone involved, and I was really happy to be there.
Yeah, I was not.
I hate that I missed it.
Oh, yeah, I was about to say I also hate that I missed it. It was just all of their panels were just over something else, and I was just like, oh, come on. But I did make it out to the signing, which we will get to soon, on Sunday, and I was glad that I guessed that it wasn't going to be as crowded as Friday. So,
gosh, I'm so glad it wasn't. I mean, we can go ahead and talk about that. You and Kurt were up in the front of the line, a little bit ahead of me, and I was so sure that they were going to, be like, all right, it's 12 o'clock. All right, you guys are done. Get out of here. But they didn't.
Yeah, I got my stuff signed at 11:45, and they were letting people take pictures. They were inviting people to take pictures. So
they were.
While I am a pretty casual fan of Final Fantasy, I actually got those signatures for my older brother, who is the complete opposite of me and is unhinged for Final Fantasy, because he got Comic-Con is my brother's yearly show, and so he got me the Makoto Yukimura autograph there in my Planets Volume 1, and he told me about the Final Fantasy reunion, effectively, as I'd seen. He was just like, I just saw this. Oh my gosh. I'm mailing you my copy of Rebirth right now. Please get this signed for me. And I was like, you got it, boss.
Yes, chef.
You got me last year. You got it, boss. Oh, yes. Yes, chef, indeed. And so I knew that Sunday was going to be less of a zoo, and boy was I right. I was just so surprised that all three of them were so both eager to take pictures and inviting people to take pictures with them.
Like almost as a given. Like, would you like their handlers were like, would you like a picture? Would you like a picture? Let me take your phone.
Hamaguchi's handler took my phone from me, and she videotaped the entire conversation that Hamaguchi and I had. Aww. And he complimented my Kirby shirt.
Aww.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep on rolling down this point. I just love that they took the time, because they realized this means so much to every single person that's coming in line.
Oh yeah, I was euphoric. Mm-hmm. It was so exciting. And everybody in that line around me, because like I felt like it was like my friend is up here, then there's another 10 people, then there's another friend, then there's another 10 people. I got to talk to a lot of strangers, and there were a lot of people in my section that literally only came out to Otakon because they wanted to do the Final Fantasy reunion thing.
Yeah.
And they were just like, this made me get my act together and just demand more time off of work, or take it anyway, even if it wasn't kosher, and to go do this. Aww. And I was just like, you know what, good for these people. Everybody was so excited. Totally. And, considering all of the Funko incidents that happened previously through the weekend, I was just so surprised that they were like, you know what, since y'all are so well behaved and not a single person has a figurine from what it looked like, personalization optional, anything to sign is game.
Yes.
It's because we were all cool on Sunday. And I'm glad that they extended the line. Did they cap it after a while since you were closer to that? Because I was out before noon.
So they did. I think they stopped taking in new people, but which was probably only maybe 15 minutes after I got there. So, like, all things considered, I got there kind of right on the razor's edge.
Yeah.
And I did not expect to be able to get in at all, because I had such a interesting experience trying to get the Trigger autograph the day before, but that was sort of its own beast. That had its own special madness going on. So I was like, there's probably like a 30% chance that I can get this done, but they were super generous. I think I got my autograph at like when did they start? At like 11? I think I got mine at like 12:33 or something like that. So
Dang.
they really took their time, and I'm hoping maybe it was because they were thinking like, we don't get to do this that often. It's our first time in DC. It's Sunday. Let's just take all these people. There's really not that many, and I'm just like, man, thank you. Just thank you. I'm still not
it was
down from that high.
Easily one of the best autograph experiences I've ever had at
Me
a
too.
con, period.
Absolutely.
Just because of how chill it was, considering how hectic Otakon autographs can be, because people will push and shove in a lot of cases, this was just the opposite. Everyone was cooperative, excited, like, man, I wish all Otakon lines could be like this.
No kidding.
And I think because we were all so well behaved and like didn't bother the autograph people, and you know, like how you could hear through the halls, you could hear the autograph people shouting at people. There was none of that.
Nope.
Not a peep.
That's really refreshing to hear. Like, didn't get anything signed this weekend, so I have no real experience, but hearing that interaction with those staff members is really great, because I've been in some autograph lines before where the person's just like, why are you bothering me? Like, they gave off that vibe, you know, and it was very much a like rush type of thing.
I'm going to tell you, at least for Otakon, it's been better. This year was like a step up, even though we were in the Nagahama line and we ended up not getting anything.
That wasn't the staff people's fault, though.
No. That was on the staff. There was some mixed messaging about, oh, maybe you can go and come back. No. But, no, they were good for the most part on everything. They were like, it was a lot more pleasant this time around. I did hear some stories that there was shouting in some situations, but before...
English voice actors, from what I heard.
Yeah,
yes.
But, there was one particular gentleman I saw who's in charge of autographs, who's usually there, who seemed to be a little more chill this year.
He's normally a shouter, too. That was our chef.
Yeah, he's a bit... there's another dude.
There's another one?
The best way I can describe him without being too specific is he kind of looks like another Justin Sudeikis dark-haired dude. But I know that job as trying to run the line is difficult, and people aren't paying attention to their surroundings.
And absolutely thankless, because
and
nobody's going to
thank
you for doing that. Yeah.
And also dealing with Funko people, but I think antagonizing people while you're trying to get, I know it's frustrating, but antagonizing people while you're trying to get them around really it's not professional.
Yeah.
I'm just going to put it out there right now. So
True. It's a fun
I'm glad
line.
there was less of that this year.
It makes me want to do the opposite of what they're asking me, you know?
Yeah.
Man, some of those, I'm not an expert in, crowd management by any means, but there needs to be some sort of something to fix some of the bottlenecking that goes on whenever it's like autograph lineup time, especially for the Japanese guests. Western guests, you don't have to worry about it, because most of the time they're at their table for like hours and hours and hours. The lines are really chill because there's not that time crunch, So that was super easy. This is like specifically for the limited like Japanese autographs, but like the whole 30 minutes ahead of time, and then everybody rushes all to one place, and there's no possible way that a crowd is going to self-manage like that. There's got to be something that can be done to fix that.
Yeah, because I've been to other crowded conventions. Like, I'm going to throw an older example of a convention of a similar size at one point in time. Before Anime Matsuri became terrible, and before the owner got outed as a sex pest. And it had 38,000 people in a convention center smaller than DC's. And their autograph lines for the Japanese guests, because Trigger used to be a very regular guest at that show for a long time, their autograph lines were always manageable. And I kind of look at Otakon, and I'm just like, how does that bottlenecking keep happening? It's better than it's been even 2 years ago, where they would put everybody into one line for multiple guests, and then they would cap it.
Oh, wait, hold on. So everybody
so
in one
every
line
guest,
for all the guests?
And there would be one guest that would bottleneck the entire line, and then none of
Ooh.
the other people. Yep, 2022 was a nightmare. One of the composers for the Metal Gear Solid games was there 2 years ago, and I got booted out of a line because every single person in the line was there for Steve Blum, and they were like, line capped.
God.
And
Steve Blum didn't have his
people were
own table?
pissed.
That's really shocking to me.
I think he had his own table, too.
He did,
Oh,
but then they
wow.
put him with the Japanese guests and then blocked everybody out because they
Gosh.
were afraid that he was going to cause such a huge traffic jam at his own table and clog up the dealer's room.
Wow.
And yeah, so then it booted everybody out, and people were mad. I remember. I was pissed myself, and I remember seeing the visual anger and hearing it too.
Sure.
And then they fixed it on Sunday, and apparently it used to always be like that. And then after 2022, that never happened again because Steve Blum caused a crowd incident. So. Yep.
Well, I'm really glad that I met Steve Blum back in like 2015, so I don't have to do it again because I feel like his
I met
lines
him
would
at
just
some
be
anime
insane.
expo. I can't even remember, but like, yeah, it's Otakon's lines still need improvement, but are they exponentially better than even just 2 years ago? Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to hear.
Holy crapoli.
Mm-hmm.
Glad to hear the arc of history is bending towards improvement.
We love to stand.
I don't really like to stand in line that much.
No, I don't love to stand. And the thing
Hey.
is, it's so funny. Let's talk about the Nagahama line.
Please
We're
go
gonna
ahead.
use
I know
this.
you've been waiting this whole time. Go for it.
I hate to stand. This is when I've realized that my knees will give out on me. I'm at that age. So Nagahama's line was fun. So usually in his lines, he'll do a 5 to 7 minute sketch,
Mm-hmm.
For people,
Yes.
if they ask. And then
He's
this
known
year
for
it
it.
was all sketches. All sketches. And these weren't sketches. These were the Mona Lisa.
He was taking 20 minutes.
20 minutes on average per person.
Oh
Some
my
people took 30 minutes, and there was 50 people
Oh,
in line.
no.
Me
Yeah.
and Russell sat in line for 3.5 hours until we
Oh.
were both hungry and were nearly giving in. There was a guy behind where Coop and Megan were originally sitting before they cried uncle an hour before we did, who lost circulation in his feet and had to get up, and standing wasn't enough, and just pacing back and forth wasn't enough. He needed food, and he had to leave, and he was so bummed out. Russell and I were bummed out, too. Like, we were all bummed out. We were hoping, we're like,
Godspeed,
I brought
wow.
6 shikishis for me and my friends. It's only going to take 5 minutes, right, if even, right? They hadn't even gotten through the second group of people by the time 3.5 hours had passed.
Oh my
And they were letting
gosh.
people in groups of 10. We watched our friend stand as next in line for half an hour.
Oh, wow.
So
And then their sketch took 23 minutes. We timed it. Because, it was taking that long that we were timing people.
Wow. It's like, okay, Nagahama, we know you're a king. You don't need to flex so hard. You can just give a simple little doodle. You draw your little ginkgo and move people along. I know you.
He was apparently drawing different. There was no requests. None.
Wow.
It was, he would decide what show or thing he was working on for you based on vibes.
I kind of love that.
Oh, man.
Both of his panels were good, though. Those were great. Those were fantastic panels. The first one, I only got to see the last half of it, and he was talking about reflections. That was really interesting. And then, of course, basically this documentary of his own work and how he got involved into the industry in the first place, and how Wicked City was the thing that pushed him. And I was just like, dang, Wicked City?
Wow.
Kawajiri really just has that effect on people. And
I mean,
and
I'll
then all
never
the
forget
things
the
he
first
worked
time I
on.
watched Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Great film.
And I cannot believe they cut his panel off. That was so rude.
But wait,
he
what?
wasn't even
What
done.
happened?
So, no, he went over time
Oh.
by like 15 minutes, and they had to cut him off,
gosh.
and he was just opening up the slide for Flowers of Evil.
and apparently he had like a big
3-inch binder
Yeah.
of production materials for Flowers of Evil and Mushishi.
What?
And he was
Oh
like,
my
no,
gosh.
wait, I've got all these production materials,
Oh,
and I got
wow.
this, and I got that, and the panel was just like, ah!
Wow. So I think what we've firmly established is that Nagahama is a genius and a cool guy, but is awful at time management.
And now I have to go to
Yeah.
North Carolina.
Yeah. Well, come on down. Or over.
I want to try y'all's barbecue. I want to know if it's as good as Deep East Texas barbecue, which is not a common barbecue you see around, but I believe it is king. It's basically like where Cajun culture and like mostly Black Texas culture kind of combines. It's slap.
Sounds
Sounds
good.
good.
I would like to try that one day. Never been to that part of the country. Well, I've been to San Antonio like once.
That's Central Texas. So Houston is like on the border of Deep East Texas. So there's like many institutions for barbecue here in Houston that qualify as Deep East Texas barbecue. But going to Deep East Texas myself, because I escaped a hurricane barrel to just get air conditioning not too long ago, and I went up to Jefferson, Texas, which is only like 20 miles away from the coast or from the border of Louisiana, and pretty close to Arkansas as well. Oh gosh, that barbecue.
Okay.
Now
Yeah, I
I really
bet.
want to try Carolina barbecue as well.
Well, I'm kind of the bad person to ask about Carolina barbecue because I've been eating it since I like could eat. So I'm a little sick of it, to be perfectly honest. So you'll have to come tell me, you know.
Kurt says he has the hookups, so I trust him.
I believe
Y'all
him as
have
well.
I believe
Cookout.
it.
Yep.
Y'all have cookout.
We do. We have many cookouts all the time.
Yeah.
I had cookout for the first time when I was living in Kentucky for an internship many years ago, and oh my god.
People
Oh
love those
my God.
milkshakes.
Yes.
Okay, so last topic, and I swear we're eventually going to let you guys go because you've given us way too much time. This episode is going to take forever to edit, but that's okay because it's good content.
Swag.
It's good content. Anyway, let's talk about cosplay for the weekend. I think, Tori, you were the only one to actually cosplay this weekend, so how was your experience from that perspective?
It was fun. I got to wear my Freerun cosplay again after I spent hours and hours and hours making it. My friend that we were there visiting on top of going to the con was Fern, so we cosplayed together on Friday.
I'm so sorry I broke your
So-
staff.
Yeah, it's okay.
I'm so sorry.
I forgive you. So we cosplayed together on Friday. I was a walking bucket of sweat. It was so hot.
Yeah.
But we powered through it. We cosplayed all day to the time we got back to the hotel. Cosplayed Misato on Saturday. That was a lot more comfortable. I was kind of surprised how many times I was stopped for a photo because, like, I usually don't get a lot of people stopping me for a photo. So I was like, oh, this is kind of nice.
It's because you're cute.
It's true.
And so that made me feel kind of good. And then I did not cosplay on Sunday because we had a fairly long drive and we had to dump our stuff back off at the car at my friend's apartment. And it was kind of a
only
hubbub.
lunatics cosplay on Sunday.
There were so many people cosplaying on Thursday.
I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
There was a Guts and Casca from the early part of the Golden Age.
Really?
On Thursday. And when they were still both in red capes. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Dang.
Yeah. I was like, girl, the heck? What? I want to use my singular F-bomb here so bad, but I'm still gonna save it. But I was just so amazed. I tried to cosplay this weekend. It did not go well. My boots just did not work. I was gonna cosplay Miu from Bang Brave Bang Bravern, and I have the whole outfit, and I was gonna wear it. But since my feet were so swollen from the day before, just wearing
Yep.
normal shoes,
Ooh.
I tried to take a couple blocks of walking in those shoes, and I almost had to be carried back to my hotel room.
Oh no.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, that was a cosplay where it was just literally a shirt, my tack belt from Airsoft, my cargo pants, those boots, and because I've got big long brown hair, I'm like, let's just put my hair in a braid and kind of tease the top to give it some anime volume and call it a day, because it's really easy because my hair's so thick.
You have Rumiko Takahashi here.
Thank you.
Yes.
I try.
IRL
And so
shampoo
it's-
hair.
That's a pretty apt
Yeah.
comparison, actually. That's scary. But yeah, the boots were just so bad that eventually I was limping, and then I could barely take a step forward.
Yeah, it was rough.
Because even
Oof.
just putting my feet on the ground, I still have blisters all over my feet from that. My
Same.
boots. And I tried to break them in with ice. I don't know what kind of feet those boots were made for, because they were not made for human feet. I am buying Dr. Scholl's boots next year. And I will try it again. There was only one other Bravern cosplayer, and she was around on Saturday too. She was cosplaying Lulu, which literally is just with just athletic shirts and a t-shirt and a wig, and I'm like, dang, that is so comfy, except for the wig.
Is that
Kagapi.
the character that has like the I Heart Robot shirt or something that I've
Yes.
seen from the meme? Okay.
She's the one with the silver and blue hair that makes robot noises in real life. Gagapi! She's so good. I also noticed, just a cosplay topic in general,
Yes.
I noticed a lot of cosplayers this year with no wigs.
Interesting.
A lot. Like,
Huh.
it would be like they would have the most beautiful outfit I've ever seen, but then they'll have their hair styled or nothing at all. Like in previous years and just previous cosplay years, because they used to do it way more avidly in the mid-2010s, because I've cosplayed every single UC Gundam protagonist. Do not at me.
Shoot.
I've done them all. Multiple times while meeting with those who are still alive, every single voice actor, including Judo Ashta's voice actor, Kazuki Yao, that doesn't, or at the time didn't go to a lot of shows, so I busted my butt to get there, in my full judo outfit. But
That's an incredible checklist.
yeah, oh, it's great. It's been an awesome time. But I just noticed it this year, and I'm like, and I asked one person, I was like, hey, like, your cosplay's great, and I'm glad you used your hair to, you know, to style your hair in such a way that's really creative. Sorry, my cat's being a whore again. And she literally said, thank you. I would have worn a wig, but it's just too hot. And that's
Yeah.
everybody
I guess that's
that
the
she
culprit.
spoke to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the last
For sure.
time I wore a wig at Otakon, I was cosplaying Otakon from Metal Gear Solid 2 at Otakon, because of course
Hey.
I was. Everybody got the joke.
Hey.
Everybody. I had the parrot, and I used my parrot plushie to harm people emotionally by saying I miss you into their ear because I love causing people problems. I nearly passed out, and that's a short wig.
Mm.
And I wasn't wearing like one of those really tight wig caps. I was wearing the mesh ones with a wig cap that I specifically kind of ventilated and set my hair up in such a way that it wouldn't be so hot. I still was just like, even in just a t-shirt, a lab coat, and really loose jeans and shoes, I felt like I was going to pass out. That was the first and only time in my life I had a migraine. And this was in 2022 when Otakon was way more pleasant in terms of temperature. And I could not imagine wearing a full cosplay with a big heavy wig in 100-degree weather. Props to you, Tori, who did it, though. Holy crap.
It wasn't easy.
No.
Thank you.
Shrimping ain't easy.
Yeah.
Oh.
So you did cosplay for your end, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
So in y'all's observation, what were like the top cosplays? I mean, I certainly saw a ton of Freerin and Fern and Stark, like the whole trio. Lots
so
of
many.
Lots of Delicious in Dungeon. So many Tifas and Aeriths, just everywhere.
Yeah.
Just
There were so many
everywhere.
Tifas and Aeriths. My favorite was every Chilchuck cosplayer taller than 5'5". Specifically those people. I saw some short kings, and I love you, but yeah, tall people trying to cosplay Chilchuck.
Ooh.
I'm glad you have the confidence, because I laughed so hard.
So, speaking of that, Tori, did you want to talk about the Delicious in Dungeon photo shoot?
Oh, yeah. So I dragged my friend to that as well, because I think you guys were in a panel.
I think that was
wasn't-
like during AnimEigo.
Right, and we had just came out of the tasting panel, and we were just walking around, but we were sitting in the hallway, and I was like, oh yeah, let's go like crash the Delicious in Dungeon photo shoot so I can like see the cosplays. And it was a massive turnout. There were a lot of people. I think the most popular character was definitely Marcel, but there were a lot of Senshis as well, like different like interpretations on Senshi. So it was very
Did
cool.
y'all see the sexy Senshi? Did y'all see them?
No, I don't think so.
There was a sexy Senshi on Friday specifically where it was a gal who made like a female Senshi but literally put him in like a unitard.
Uh-huh.
And had like these, and had just, it was the sluttiest Senshi I've ever seen, and I loved it. I was like, yes!
Oh my gosh. Slinchy. Anyway.
Snatched.
But the crowning moment of the photo shoot was my friend and I, we were walking into the game room because that's where they had the photo shoot section set up, which I have a lot
into the...
Tori, you died!
No!
Were you walking into
back?
the gay baby jail?
The gay baby jail, yes. Am I back? Am I coming through?
Yes.
Okay, anyway, I was not going to the gay baby jail. They had the photo shoots in the game room, which I have a lot of feelings about. But we were walking through, and I looked at my friend, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm pretty sure that's one of the trigger animators. But we just kept on walking, and we got over to watch the photo shoot, and here comes the two animators and the president and the YouTube channel curator, and they are going deep in that crowd trying to get photos of all the cosplayers.
That's
and my friend
great.
just leans over and she's like, what if this, like, we're the last two people ever to see the president of Studio Trigger alive because the crowd is eating him? And I was like, oh, you're right. And he just like morphed into the crowd and he was gone. And then like the two animators, they were so short, they were like jumping up with their phones in their hand trying to get photos. And I
So
looked
cute.
at her and I was like, I feel like we're witnessing something we're not supposed to know about. So we just kept like watching them watch the crowd and try to get their little photos. And then we eventually dipped out, and it was really fun. I'm glad we went just to witness that, honestly.
I'm glad they got to experience that, you know, go see, be in the sea of Delicious in Dungeon, and I'm sure that was a real treat for the cosplayers too, to be like, oh my gosh, they're right here.
Yeah. For what I saw the most of, surprisingly, it felt like I kept seeing a lot of Umineko cosplayers in the year of 2024, which was pretty cool.
I did.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess you just recognize things that you're familiar with. You just see them more clearly. Like, I saw a ton of Bloodborne cosplays, and like, I love that. I love that game. Like, I feel like every time I turned a corner, there was like, oh, there's a hunter over there. There's a hunter over there. Oh, there's a Maiko Lash. Oh, there's a Lady Maria. I was like, so that was kind of weird.
Yeah.
Apparently there was some Shadow of Erdtree cosplayers that people noticed even on Thursday, and I'm like,
yeah.
dang,
I-
you guys cranked that out so fast. I'm not a Bloodborne or like just that kind of
FromSoft.
game person,
Yeah.
but like, well, not entirely. I used to really like to play the old Armored Core games.
Hey, that's fair.
Yes.
That's fair.
It's like, don't count out FromSoft, because unfortunately I am a pervert for robots, so like, please don't test me.
Maybe,
But yeah,
maybe...
there were so many. I was surprised. I also saw quite a bit of Bloodborne myself. Every time I noticed there were Griffiths everywhere I looked. I saw at
Interesting.
least 6
Yeah.
of them. Like Griffith Berserk, and I was just like, there are so many of you. Also, really early Golden Age for almost all of them. And I was like, dang, what has spurred this specifically?
Well, it could have been
Like everybody in the same era. Maybe it was the Blu-ray release?
That's what I was thinking. I was like, oh, it is only the most top-selling thing on Amazon of all time, of course.
So true.
This is true.
Yeah. Let's see. I did
actually,
not-
Coop,
Go
ahead.
Yes.
what were you gonna say about our game room and photo shoot spot?
Yeah, because I know I bet you're alluding this a second from, because I don't know exactly how it felt to have the cosplay meetups thrown in there, but before last year and a couple of years before, aside from the gaming stuff, half of that room was a ghost town. So actually, I felt
really?
that having the car show and probably the get-togethers for photo shoots was probably a good idea to help maximize space. But what were you going to say about that specifically? I was curious.
I just noticed that it caused some bottlenecking. Like when we went to the Delicious in Dungeon shoot, you could not get through that area at all. Like you really had to go way out of your way to get around it. Which I mean, I guess theoretically, really the only people that would kind of be in that area are the people that need to be there for that. So it's probably not a huge problem, but it definitely felt like it got a little like packed in that area, especially for something like that knew was going to have probably a larger turnout than maybe some other things.
I see.
That's a good point. And like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that was probably one of the larger photo shoots, if I had to guess. I mean, probably not compared to something like, I don't know, Genshin Impact or something, but like we happened to pass
There was
by.
a lot of Genshin Impact.
Oh, of course.
Oh my
Yes.
There always is these days. But like we passed by the Apothecary Diaries photo shoot, and that was only like
Yes!
maybe
10 people.
Yeah.
There were a lot of people throughout the weekend, though. But the thing is,
True.
like, I feel like those people were all doing their own thing. I cataloged 15 Mau Maus alone and 5
Yes.
Jinshis, and there were people cosplaying all of the other concubines. These people were out there. If they all couldn't make it to the photo shoot,
Yeah.
they were everywhere.
They were.
I felt like
Yeah.
everywhere I looked, there was another Mau Mau, and they all gave me different stickers and
I would
different
agree.
like greetings and things like that, and all
Aw.
unique. Everybody had a unique pose, a unique prop, a unique way that she has her basket, whether it was plain, full of flowers, full of other things, so many things. Everybody was so creative.
Mhm.
So that was, I was gonna also mention that being my other cosplay highlight of me doing this scavenger hunt for Mau Maus and telling them, you're the X number Mau Mau I've seen this weekend or today alone. And they're like, holy crap, where are these other people? A lot of these people, some people didn't know where all the others were, but I don't know. I had a ball. I had an absolute ball. I feel like and then all my Mau Mau posts on Blue Sky ended up being, yet another Mau Mau! Yet another! Oh my gosh!
Yeah, like it's kind of a weird experience for me to be like so inundated with seeing cosplays from things that I personally enjoy, like seeing all the Delicious in Dungeon stuff, all the free run stuff, all the Apothecary Diaries stuff. I'm just like, oh wow, these things that I'm enjoying are very, very popular.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Another cosplay moment that falls into the notable activities thing also, just because I just think this was funny. So late night, I was about to go to Megan's room party that she hosted, and we were all in a taco shop just getting little snacks or meals for people who hadn't eaten yet and doodads. And I saw some Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicles cosplayers.
Oh my
Wow.
gosh.
And I was just like, oh my gosh, y'all Tsubasa cosplays are awesome. And they were like, oh my gosh, this is the first time I've been recognized this weekend. And
Aww.
I was just like, and I took a breath. I was so excited. And then I was like, yeah, I guess Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicles is older. And I was thinking in my head, and I didn't say it out loud, and they left with their tacos, had a good night. I was thinking, yeah, Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicles, that's 10 years old, right?
No.
It passed its 19th anniversary
no.
already. The 20th is
Oof.
around the corner, and I
Yeah.
nearly collapsed in the taco shop. I was just like, no. It was a great moment, and those people were so excited that somebody knew what Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicles was.
That's so
That
sweet.
is
And I
very
felt
wholesome.
like I was going to die when I realized it was almost 20 years old after they left. And then I got gringo wasted.
Oh yeah, how were the tacos? I must ask.
They were not bad. A little expensive because I'm used to Texas prices for $1 a taco cash only. But it's in the nice neighborhood in DC. I wanted to take one of my friends to the hood to get good Colombian food, and they didn't want to go to the hood, even though all the good food is in the hood. I used to live in the hood, so I'm just like, yeah, you have to get the good food in the hood, but they didn't want to. But, you know, all things considered, they're pretty good. Seasoning was good, not just adequate, it was good. It is just downtown DC prices.
Sure.
So just prepare yourself for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a few of those experiences. However, the ramen shop we went to, which is Lamen, Lamen, they were
Yes.
very, very reasonably priced, and we only had to.
Reren is so good.
Yes, we
Reren's
only
great.
had to wait for about, I don't know, 15 minutes once Kurt got there. So, yeah, great
Not
meal.
even that long.
Yeah,
Yeah.
delicious takoyaki, super good.
Yeah, it's the Chinese ramen place. I have so many
Yes.
good memories at that one. I didn't hit it up this year though, and I'm still kicking myself in the butt for that one. So.
We enjoyed it on your behalf, if that makes you feel worse.
Thanks. I miss their don don noodles with all of my life.
Mm.
I like their little mummy noodle guy mascot. It's very cute.
Yes.
Also, other food that is good. If you didn't hit it up this year, hit it up next year. If you want just a good cafe food, it's a bit of a walk away from the convention center, but I think it's a good Thursday place, which is what we did, and I also did it on Wednesday because I like them so much. Baker's Daughter. It's really good.
Ooh,
What do
okay.
they
It's
have?
a good cafe, and they have a full menu, including all-day breakfast.
Yes.
So, I love their sourdough bread. It slaps. And they also had seasonal strawberry matcha lattes this year. It slapped.
Oh.
That sounds like a place
I
Tori
had
would
two
take
of
me.
those this year, and I was just so hungry. And every time I'm like, dang, I wish I could be back in DC so I could eat those English muffins again. Because they are so good.
So there's a corner in Chinatown with two great restaurants around the corner from each other. There is a great fried chicken and ramen shop called Bantam King. That is fantastic. Every time I've been there at the show during Otakon, I have a bowl of the ramen and I feel my soul restored for a bit.
Nothing quite like it.
Yeah, and especially with how hot it is, it kind of had the hot coffee effect for me, where I felt refreshed even though it's hot and it's hot outside.
Yeah.
Oh no, I have a literal hot coffee problem from this weekend, and then we'll transition to the end. But I went to go order myself a coffee right before the AnimEigo panel, and I forgot a very important word. That word was iced. So I ended up getting handed a boiling hot cup of hot coffee on this very, very warm day. And my mouth is very sensitive to heat, so I had to wait probably like 45 minutes before I could drink it.
Rip.
But you know, it's all right. It's all right. I got to nurse it during the AnimEigo panel, so that was all right. It was all right.
And the other place right around the corner I'd recommend is Tonari,
Yes.
which it's
We wanted to go
Detroit
there.
style pizza. It's
Never
Detroit
made
style
it.
pizza, but made with freshly frozen ingredients from Hokkaido.
Oh.
And it has a Michelin star too, baby.
It does?
I believe it does, if I remember correctly, unless I'm like talking out my butt, but I remember it having a Michelin.
We are certainly going to have to hit that place up next year.
Absolutely.
Yep. Well, any final thoughts before we head into the end of the episode? We've gone super duper long. This might be one of our longest episodes so far, but thank you guys for joining us. Anybody have any final things they want to say?
I can say for me, because I know there's another question coming up here in a hot second as we wrap it up. But I want to ask, for you two, since it was your first time coming, would you guys try to come again? I know it's not Tori's first time, but first time in a while. Would you both consider coming again in the next couple of years, or maybe next year, depending on how things shake out?
So go ahead, Tori.
I was going to say definitely. I had a lot of fun, despite feeling like I did like 7 days straight at Walt Disney World. It was a really good time. I definitely learned I need to be better at time management, so I think that'll kind of improve next year.
You're not as bad as Nagahama.
But we had a really easy commute in and out. We stayed a little bit far, like we were like 30-minute metro ride out from the con center. Everything was super smooth, got in easy, got out easy. I was very thoroughly pleased with like everything over the entire weekend, so despite being completely beat, I think I will be back.
Yeah, I think for me too, the short answer to that question is yes, but the long answer is absolutely yes. So I would be delighted to return next year. And it was just such a wonderful, experience with all the different things we got to do, all the really cool people from internet land that I got to see in real life, folks like yourselves, just to get to hang out, even if it's for just a few seconds, to be like, oh wow, these people really do exist, how amazing. And then it's just,
or that moment you came up to me and was like, nice hat.
yes. Because currently Coop has one of a kind, the I think Japanese cartoons are neat hat, which you can buy at my Shopify store, which you can find a link to on the Third Impact Anime website, which is thirdimpactanime.com. But currently Coop has the only one, but you want to join this exclusive club and buy as many of those hats as possible, because they are pretty cool. But yeah,
I do like old Japanese cartoons quite a bit.
Yep. So yes, I will certainly be back if I can swing it, and I will be much more inclined to do so if they have just as much of a stellar guest lineup as they did this year. I know this year is going to be hard to beat, but who knows? Who knows?
Last year was real to me.
Yeah, with
last year was my highlight year, I feel, for
Same.
guests, because Shoji Kawamori was there,
yeah.
and I cried in his autograph line.
Oh.
That is pretty.
I was very
cool.
excited.
Yep. And maybe by the time he comes back, I will be more of a Macross fan, because I still maintain my journeyman status. I've seen that plus, seen those Frontier movies. It's a pretty cool series. I hear there's a podcast that I could do like a watch along to.
Yeah.
Maybe I should do that.
Like, dude, I think I remember this podcast.
Do you remember?
Yeah, it's called Dude You Remember Macross. Go check it out at anchor.fm/DudeYouRemember. We're also on the Twitter, and we have Facebook we check out every so often. We're planning to do more stuff in the future. We're actually going to be collaborating with our friends at Giant Robot FM, talking about the first Macross Delta movie, Passionate Valkyrie, in October. So we do some cool stuff. Check it out.
Sounds pretty cool to me. I did want to ask one final thing. So one thing we like to do whenever we do an anime series review is do like a final question that is what is the most iconic moment of this series? And I want to do that here for Otakon. So what is if you could pick one thing that you think you will remember, years down the line from this particular Otakon. It doesn't have to be like the thing, like for sure 100%, but like a thing, and just pick one. For me, it's going to be obviously the 7 Rebirth panel, like just that whole thing entirely. That's my one iconic moment. So, Coop, what about you?
For me, it's hard, because I think the best thing about this show is the people. Running, like we said earlier, running into new people, even if it's just for a couple seconds, even if it's during a panel or during a booth with anime merch of Idol stuff for 5 seconds. It's I think the iconic moment is the small moments we have with other people around the show, getting to talk to them, getting to not just talk about like anime stuff, but just like, hey, how you doing? How's life treating you? How's the flight? How are your kids doing? Like stuff like that. Like, again, I love this show because it's way more about, like, the anime part's important, but for me, it's always been way more about the personal connection. And those are the moments I'll treasure the most from this show. 100%.
Tori, what about you?
I didn't get to tell this story. So Saturday, my friend and I went to go meet up with a friend that I have not seen.
Oh, Tori, you cut out. Oh, there we go. You're back. You're
okay,
back.
am I back? Okay.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. On Saturday, my friend and I went to go meet up with a friend that I had not seen in person since my very last Otakon. So that was really great. But that is the kind of the lead up to the iconic moment. My friend tapped me on the shoulder as a Laios cosplayer was proposing to his partner, who was dressed as Fallon.
I love that. That is chef a kiss. It's so fucked up.
At the same time,
There's your one.
yes, but at the same time, we noticed there was a giant bird flying around the top of the convention center. So truly, all chaos had erupted in that one moment, and I will never forget that.
Gosh. That's so funny. I hope that bird got out.
Same.
I do too. I don't know what happened to it. I've got a video of it flying around the ceiling, but I really hope it got out.
That bird is still going to be in there next year.
That is the most delicious in dungeon moment
True.
ever. Really.
Yeah.
Oh, look, a monster. Let's eat it.
God. Now, I think my most
Yes,
iconic
please.
moment, on the moment of, people moments, this is entirely centered around me, was when we went to the room party. People really brought the beer, wine, and liquor this year. Whoa. And as I mentioned, I got gringo wasted. I have mostly severely cut back my drinking to like 1 or 2 drinks a week if I'm even interested in drinking. I had 6 drinks. And then Kurt held his sadly rejected Otakon made a mistake by rejecting this panel. The Ugly Giant Robots Ranked.
It is an incredible time. It's very
It was
funny.
amazing. And everybody was at least very tipsy. For the most part, with the exception of those that don't partake. And I loved when Kurt had either a good one or a bad one, the entire hotel room would erupt. I cannot believe he slandered my boy Rydeen. I erupted. I was so mad. Leave Brittany alone style.
Or Voltus 5,
Oh,
too.
I couldn't believe he put Voltus 5 on there. I grew up in a Filipino neighborhood. That is some slander. Like, literally brawl me in the street right now. My ugly robot tolerance is much higher than most, and I'm just like, he's a beautiful boy, leave him alone. And I just, three shots of liquor and 3 beers later, I was just like, Kurt, this is the greatest panel I've ever seen. But the thing is, that was the kind of energy that was needed, I feel, and it really helped. Everybody had a good time. I had a fantastic time, and I actually remember the entire night, so I'm pretty happy with myself.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, that's a great plus. And I'm pretty sure whenever he did do the panel at Animazement, he was chugging some soju on stage. So he's just bringing that
Yes.
energy.
He chugged soju in the room,
Yep.
and some unspeakable things happened that I will leave unmentioned, and Kurt can talk to you about that later.
Unmentioned, they remain.
Oh boy.
All right, guys. Well, I think that kind of takes us to the end of the episode. There's probably some other things we could talk about. We could talk about what we bought, but I think I'm getting a little
We'd
tired.
be here all day.
So we'll just say for the room, we bought some cool things.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
yes, Coop, Maddie, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this episode.
Thank you.
Yes. Where can people connect with you guys online?
You can find me entirely on Blue Sky. I still have a Twitter under this username, but I just don't use Twitter anymore because I love myself. You can find me under Hyakushiki0087, just like your big friendly mobile suit from Zeta Gundam. That is Hyakushiki at 0087. I post about life, anime, and most importantly, my cat. So
Meow.
find me there. Meow meow. You will see me.
That cat has either been cuddling or staring at us for like the last 30 minutes.
And
Good
now
boy.
he's licking his boobs.
Yeah. As for me, you can find me at Rider Strike on your Blue Sky or Twitters of choice. Yeah, I'm just talking about what I'm working on and living life and enjoying it all. And I honestly, it was fun to talk with you guys, and also the con it just felt very energizing. So I have other stuff on the way for A&N that I covered at Otakon that y'all should keep your eyes peeled for. Maybe we talked about it a little bit over the span of this podcast in one way or another. So
Certainly, if those
All
things
right.
if those things get published by the time this episode goes out, I will link them in the show notes. And Tori, the people know where to find you, but where can the people find you?
I am over on Blue Sky and not Twitter so much anymore at Worst Waifu, and I also post about my cat and whatever I happen to be watching.
Boba.
Little Boba.
Little Bobby cat. And as for me...
So, I was gonna ask real quick. So when you went to go get tea for the Final Fantasy 14 promotion, was your cat just inside the drink?
Yes.
Well, funny enough, we got the fat cat cups, so it was very fitting.
Sip.
Perfect. But as for me, you can find me over on Blue Sky as well, pretty exclusively. Don't use that there, Twitter. Don't use it. I do not use it. I am off of it. And it's at Ars Arcantum. And if you don't know how to spell that, well, you don't have to, because you can just find it in the show notes for this episode, which you can find on our website, thirdimpactanime.com, where you can find, of course, show notes for this episode. You can find links to follow Tori, Coop, and Maddy, read some of Coop's cool articles, and you can find a whole slew of other excellent Third Impact Anime episodes that we have produced over the last few years under our content archive. If you'd like to support the podcast, the principal thing you can do is just share this episode with a friend who you think might enjoy it or who needs something to listen to get their anime commentary fix. You can, of course, join our Discord, which is a really nice place to be. You can find a link to that as well over on our website. Again, that's thirdimpactanime.com, and that's all I got for you. So thank you guys again for joining me to talk about Otakon 2024, and maybe in a year we'll do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Woo! Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, I'm gonna kill the record. It's okay.
My butt hurt.